ready to work. Suck. Lost more numbers.
Hello, everyone. Damn, our timing. You'd think we'd
One
be good at
frame
this
of
by
me.
now. You'd think we'd be good at this by now, having streamed for, I don't know, like 3+ years. But apparently not. Apparently it's amateur hour every hour. Please excuse me. I'm very tired.
Texture not polish, and I'm wondering. So there was a little message about Ansarek Heroic Phase 1 before the stream. Where does that come from?
It comes from Ansarek being the how do I put this? The only challenging thing for tanks in the whole raid, which sort of resulted in me and my co-tank being fully asleep for the entire raid, and then Ansarek going, you know, like Nintendo's new hardware, waking us up.
Oh,
Going, oh my sweet God, do we have to deal with incoming damage now? How do we do that? We forgot. P1 is easy. It's just a skill issue, honestly. Shut the absolute, it's too early to swear in the stream, up. Because every phase is skill issue.
You're right. No, you're right. I mean, look, as a DPS and healing team, we are peerless. Perfect. Beyond reproach, frankly. Yeah. It's just the tanks letting us down. It's always the tank's fault.
Oh, yeah, I see you two play Mythic Plus. Yeah, interesting. No, everything is easy once you've done it. That's how it works. That's how these games specifically work. Like, it's just really easy. Just do it. Just learn to do it and do it. You're like,
it's a really funny. It's a funny thing. Ovinax last night was really that where I think Ovinax was the only fight we like really had a bit of progging on. For the first sort of while that we were doing it, it was before the nerfs. We were like a smaller team size. And last night was, you know, those raid nights where it's reclear night and everyone is just like 50 IQ minus and it's proper, you know, just goofball shit time. And we just like completely walk over the boss without any like form of resistance whatsoever. And yeah, there's always like gear and stuff, but it's that thing of like once you get a boss, it's like something clicks for everybody. I've got to imagine it's like we're all chatting, talking shit while doing the fight. So there's no stress, and we all know what we're doing anyway.
yeah.
It's a funny thing. Let's not talk about the other reclear fight that just turned into absolute amateur hour.
Just the old nothing personnel. What accent is this? We're from Northern Ireland, and we're from very different parts of Northern Ireland. So
Yes.
I sound like what we call a culture, which is a country person. I sound a lot more like that, whereas he's all posh and what do you call it? Transatlantic, whatever you call it. Accent.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have a Northern Irish accent. It is just not a Northern Irish accent that really anyone else in Northern Ireland has.
Yes.
I don't really know why. I think the best theory so far is that it's one part Northern Irish dad with weak accent, one part Southern Irish mum with stronger accent, and one part autism.
Yep, definitely.
Because usually the third there is what sort of makes accent development when you're younger a bit more funny. I think it's that anyway.
Yeah, meanwhile, I just sound completely incomprehensible at the best of times.
It was great. I remember going to the physio, and it was like first time I ever met this guy, and we're talking for 5 minutes, and he's like, "So, you autistic then? Because you sound like it." I was like, "Fuck! I've only met you for 5 or 10 minutes, dude."
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love it.
So that's the preamble done. No more foreplay. Let's get right into the news.
Into the news.
All of our shocking topics.
Yeah, so I think
it's salacious. It's mad. And actually, Blizzard have they've done it good. There was a lot of fear over one part of the 20th anniversary.
What?
The bit with the tokens. People were worried they couldn't get all the things, and Blizzard
Yes, that's right.
have made it friendly.
See, I saw people complain all day about having to work too hard for all the rewards. So I thought you were coming in with the opposite. I was like, well, they do good. I don't know. Did they not do bad this time?
That's what happens when I try to form my opinion while also not having been on Twitter for a day.
Yes, no. I saw
for me, the baseline was, are they going to add in these sets, tune it so you can only really earn like 4 or 5 of them, and try to make it evergreen through the years? That was like my baseline assumption of like, I think this is what old Blizzard would do. Whereas they've done it so you can get all of them in the 20th anniversary event.
Yeah, just with 7 weeks of hardcore grinding? Exclamation mark, question mark. Which isn't quite true.
I believe you mean 7 weeks of hardcore extracting value from your subscription fee, Matt.
Did I not say that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
With, of course, creator code Bellular, which doesn't exist. So don't worry. Don't use that. It's not a promo code.
Yeah, and I don't even think there is a promo code option in the Blizzard store, but if there was, putting Bellular in would double all the prices. Unfortunately, I think. Or just get you banned immediately. At least I think.
Yes, so I guess the first thing then, we have a date. It is pretty much the date that everybody deduced, and it is Blizzard sticking to their 8-week format.
Almost to a fault. It is literally 8 weeks to the day from the release of Thor Within.
I don't think it'll be 8 weeks for the 07 patch.
No.
Just because of Christmas timings.
Yeah, there's going to be a early January, I think, because this event goes until the 7th of January. Yeah. So I'm assuming the 7th of January is another patch.
Because if Blizzard did ship it too close to Christmas, we would of course have to get Tucker on for the War on Christmas special.
Of course, yes.
Given that this is the internet and media. So yeah, I think they're probably going to take a bit of a break, maybe January.
Yeah.
Patch, something like that.
Yeah. There's also while we're here, actually, we could talk about the fact that there's going to be a patch after this to some degree.
Dear Lord. Multiple patches in the game.
Yeah.
Shocking scenes.
Disgusting, honestly. How are you going to find the time to play all this game? So the major thinking, right, is that the Nerebar Refinery quest went live this week.
Yes.
Which is the promised like raid buff that generally scales up, just like the one in ICC back in the day, where you got stronger via a buff instead of Blizzard arbitrarily nerfing stuff down. So that went live this week, and it's been data mined to stack 8 times, up to 18%. So obviously it's like 3 and then 2% after that per 2 weeks, which brings us basically until it's maxed out in the middle of February, which is everyone going, well, that sounds like a good time for a next raid once everyone's maxed this out and played for a week with the maxed out buff. Okay, sweet, wonderful.
Yeah, I saw Warcraft Direct be mentioned there. No, we're not saying it's January. I would expect Warcraft Direct to be not that long, though.
I expect it to be...
It's a BlizzCon replacement,
time, yep.
So, yeah.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm expecting that to be November time. We're expecting MoP Classic to be announced there among probably our 11.1 patch. Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Everything just kind of lines up really well, doesn't it? They kind of got lucky and none of this was planned, I'm sure.
It turns out if you've got something planned every 8 weeks, it's not going to be that hard to do reveals. So, 20th anniversary celebration then. One thing that has changed and been clarified is the total cost of all the different transmogs. The big feature that people want is, of course, the Tier 2 sort of HD versions.
Just this one.
Pretty much just that one.
No one cares else. No, they do care. They do care, especially the Warlock one looks class.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Some proper Hunter nostalgia there as well. If you want to look like you just skinned Spyro and decided to wear him as armor. So the fear, right? The fear was that these would be really expensive, that you maybe couldn't earn them all, or that it would, suck for whatever variety of reasons. They've clarified how it works. So the first set that you buy costs 60 Bronze Celebration tokens. The second will cost 40, and beyond that, they'll only cost 20.
I was genuinely expecting that to be the other way around. I was expecting that to be you buy the first one for cheap and then grind them out. But that's actually better.
Yeah, so that would be traditional, like, not psychologically aware design. Whereas I think this is more psychologically sound. Mm-hmm. So because what it does is it anchors it in 60 being the fair value of the item, and then makes everything else feel like a really good bundle deal, but one that, because of the IKEA effect, you've worked for. So, like, on a psychological level, they've structured that, I think, pretty smartly.
And it also literally matches the value of sets, because you're going to buy the one you want first.
Yep.
So you buy the one you want first and go, well, I don't really want any. But they're cheap. Might as well. Very smart. Damn, they're actually kind of gaming in Blizzard. Insane.
Yeah. And
not gaming us for a change.
So another thing is they talked a little bit, I don't think it's here in our doc, it may be elsewhere, but they talked about how you actually earn them. So basically the way it is, there's the ways that you can earn them, and once you get 100, then you'll just earn more from doing any of the, like, sort of daily or weekly repeatable activities. So that's essentially that. The way it works is you'll be able to earn these. You can get that gear. There's other rewards as well, and then there's also time walking rewards, just for time walking badges. And throughout this event, there will be weekly back-to-back time walking, including the new vanilla time walking. So that's kind of how the event's working.
Yeah, it's going to be a little weird because I think they're doing a good job of making sure everyone knows this ahead of time, right? But there's a lot to get with the Bronze Celebration tokens, but there's also an awful lot to get with the time walking badges. The only thing is the Bronze Celebration ones, as far as we're aware, will go away with the event. So it's like focus on this and then the time walking badges after, because the time walking rewards will all stay around, because it's the time walking badge new rewards are a part of, they're being added basically as a part of the classic time walking being introduced.
Yeah, classic time walking not being a 20th anniversary specific feature, but an evergreen feature coinciding with the release of this.
Yes.
Which is good, because I suppose other than that, if they were to do another time walking, would have been BFA. Imagine you could do all of your BFA favorites in time walking. I think what they're really doing there is they know that BFA is like Mythic Plus fodder if they need to throw 1 or 2 dungeons into a season. So
like this season.
Like this season, they don't oversaturate it. Which I get why they do that, but BFA does not have good associations, so it does not spark joy.
It also lines up better with the anniversary because it's like obviously at the same time you get because obviously one of the big things coming here is the Blackrock Depths remake in raid form, which obviously that's a classic dungeon. So classic time walking, bringing back it's Dead Mines, Zul'Farrak, Stratomes, and Dire Maul, right? I think.
Yeah,
I think it's those like the old versions being brought in. So that's literally
it's the old version of.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some reason, I just assumed it would be the Cataclysm rework of Dead Mines.
It's all the originals.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
think,
great.
I
Okay.
think that ends up being 6 dungeons because it's DM, ZF, and then the 2 Dire Maul wings, and then the 2 Strato wings. So it is like a full...
Very nice.
Yep. Do you know the way we gain Bronze Celebration tokens? It's, as far as I'm aware, it's basically all dailies and weeklies in the event. Yeah. Which is all outside the Caverns of Time and Tanaris. So you just go and do a load of stuff and get things. I'm sure there'll be a lot of like specific things. I did also see Dead Mines are Here's the only one that's a classic version. Let me actually double check because I literally was looking at it today because I was writing the.
You double check that. I'll continue with things. So there's all that stuff to do outside the Caverns of Time. There's the raid to do, which I believe is in normal and heroic mode.
LFR as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, no mythic, which makes sense. If the heroic is actually a heroic, that would be fantastic.
I believe I think it's maybe potentially easier, a little bit easier, but kind of. I don't think too many people did the raid testing, so it's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay.
I did watch Mr. GM and his group wipe on it for a while, so.
Good.
At least has some sort of teeth.
Yeah, good. If people are wiping, that's good. So yeah, that's pretty good. As an example, we only raid 2 nights a week, and we ended up we had missing a raid night last week. So even as like a sort of slower sort of guild, we're not really racing or anything. This will coincide maybe a few weeks after Ansarak Heroic is on farm. So that is a period where we usually disband, but often still like want to go and do stuff. So I think that's really good. The other thing then is guest relations. Although have you confirmed?
I haven't confirmed squat. And I'll tell you exactly why really quickly. Because of wording being a challenge. Let me just make sure this actually. Hello, OBS, where have you gone? There you are. Does this work? It does. So. This says, take part in a new time walking event that will take you through the original version of Dead Mines, Zul'Farrak, Dire Maul, East of West Wings, and Stratomes living in undead
They didn't
dungeons.
say versions.
Yeah, that's the awkward part. You could read that and go, is that inclusive of everything after Dead Mines? Or
I think that actually means original.
Original version of Dead Mines?
Yeah, it's like the original version of, and then they do the list.
Yeah. But it's up for interpretation, if you get me.
Yeah. Like the more clear way to do it, if they meant only Dead Mines, is they would start the list and say the original version of Dead Mines as one entry in the list, rather than a qualifier for the list, which is what it is there.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's them all, especially with Stratum over there. But
yeah. Good. Yeah, the other thing then is guest relations, which doesn't sound thrilling, but as a bit of content, there's more to it. There's multiple jokes I won't make. So, yes, guest relations is basically the secret hunting thing, but, sort of a new take on that. No. They say, often thankless job, guest relations, as new volunteer Alex stepping into the role with lofty hopes of doing a better job than their predecessor. You assist Alex each week with resolving new guest mysteries using your secret finding skills, and you're on the lookout for stolen celebration goods, following rumors, solving mystery. Mysteries. And if you think about it, guest relations, but it's Warcraft. Yeah, so I've got to imagine the guests are not going to be like, your sort of regular, I don't know.
It's not going to be just a person walking in. It's going to be, here's a character, figure out something to do with them. And I don't know about guest relations specifically. I know there's a lot of, how to describe it, a huge amount of referential stuff and returning characters across the entire event, which is great. I didn't spend too long on it, and it was kind of earlier in the month, or earlier, I think it was September. I was like early September, I was hopping around the PTR looking at everything going on. And I was like, this is really nice. This is really quite nice. So there's that, which I'm sure that'll be part of it. There's a whole load of things, like there's the official kind of mount, what's it called, Mount Madness or something. There's basically a mount competition in game, actually, in the same way the Trial of Style is there, and it's like everyone mug and then everyone votes wrong because everyone's a fucking idiot, but you know what I mean. There's that, but for mounts. And then
Diplomatic as ever.
Yeah, and then there's the lore event, which is Lore Walker Cho telling stories about characters, and it's like a little stage diagram with it.
Yep, it's cool.
The plays is really nice. The one I watched on thing was Thessarian and his whole story. I'm like, that's really quite cool. Even with a little, I guess now technically canonical ending bit that is like, this is how this story ended in Wrath, but here's how it continued to this day slightly. Not with any big reveal or anything, but literally like, he still hasn't went and found his, was it sister, I think? Still haven't gone and found his sister and then give we reason. I'm like, that's really cute, actually. That's really nice. So I think most of the people are going to be way happier with the raid, I think, and getting the transmogs. But for people who are super into like lore and seeing kind of, I guess the whole point of it's a celebration of World of Warcraft, right? So people who kind of want that nostalgia trip and see what all the characters are up to and how they're feeling now, they'll actually be in there. It's like, yeah. It's really, like, I did kind of go, this is, you can kind of feel the love put into something.
Yeah.
I noticed that when I was hopping around the PTR. I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot. That's great.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so we got that coming up in 2 weeks. However, you do not need to wait until Warcraft Direct to have a rough idea of what's going to be coming in the next big patch. Because also on the PTR, there are future hints that massaged your wrinkly brain. And I haven't really looked into it. So it's time for you to inform my smooth brain of what's going on. Where are we going? What's happening? What's happened?
So, I'm not going to literally show our paid content because I did write an article about this over on the site. But I will kind of recap it in a way, which is there's a couple of little bits of dialogue, right? And this was kind of picked up whenever the PTR went live. I know Wohead have an article on it as well by Porter. And there's little bits of dialogue added to NPCs that are new in Donegal. And they're new in the PTR. They're not there on live. It's like a little phase shift almost because I was on different characters in the PDR, and the one that finished the max level campaign got this dialogue, but the one who didn't got the old stuff. And I don't want to be too super TLDR with it, but kind of the point is, you see, what are they called? Ricket and Skagit, which are two goblins. They're actually goblins who've been in the game for a while. Skagit's been around since WoD, and Ricket's been around since Wrath.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they're part of Gazlo's Grease Monkeys.
Oh.
Yeah, so Gazlo, who obviously Monty Gazlo, the new leader of the new leader of the Horde Goblins and leader of the
sort of crazed up beefcakes,
ready
to go.
Yeah, the replacement for Gallywix.
Yeah,
and he had the short story before the War Within launched, and he's all like ecology and environmentalism and workers' rights and paid time off.
Oh my
and
God.
Sick leave.
The global bankers at Davos have got to wow.
And working machinery that workers can use and workers not dying randomly. All this kind of woke tosh.
Well, that's awful. I mean, the thing that I hate the most about the clothes that I wear is I do not find, the bones of children in them because they've fallen into the loom. It's terrible, Matt.
Or little help you messages written in them. That's always a fun one.
Someone needs to do that as a piece of world building.
It's kind of dark. Yeah, actually would. So they talk about finding a crystal.
Crystal.
That called to them. They were on a boat, and the crystal called to them, and they went out and saw it. But
where was this boat?
Don't know.
Okay.
Don't actually know. We know that Ricket was on a boat going out with some other people, some other goblins, chasing down this thing that's calling them, and they found it, and they had to get out of there immediately because it was abandoned. It was really eerie, and they all got real bad vibes. And then a storm was coming, so they went, "Oh, we have to get out of here. We can't stay here. This is no crack." So then he goes back and talk about it, and they go, "Well, we need to get to this crystal." The intent is, at least the written intent, is for them to mine it and sell it off because they're goblins and make money. That's what they do.
I guess the immediate read is, are they... So thinking about the location of things, Undermine, which is the Goblin City on Kazan.
Under Kazan?
under Kazan is close to Kazalkar. So is this them on a boat up surface level, or is this them on a boat in Hallowfall?
Surface level.
Surface level.
It's not in Hallowfall. It's not in Hallowfall at all.
I guess that's where it's kind of fun, because we all saw the Goblin Raid icon, and a lot of us I thought we were going to be doing World, Soul, Nerubian, Xalatath things. And, you know, goblins have so often just been joke characters in the game. Like, if you do the goblin starting zone, it is kind of a big shitpost. I mean, it's not hard, but you get my point, right? You know, they're not always seen as being like a good vessel for serious storytelling. I'm Blizzard trying to change that. But I guess some of the concern, or like the way that it didn't pass the sniff test, just Goblin Raid, is it felt so different to what the expansion was like marketed. So I suppose you can see this, and it looks like it is pulling the goblin stuff into War Within, not pulling us away from War Within and into goblins.
Yes, so I was worried how they would connect that, because obviously we knew the Goblin Raid stuff was coming. We saw goblins down in the Ring of Deeps. We saw them in Ashket. We're like, how are they going to connect these stories? And I think Bellular is the way to do it, because they found this crystal, right? They found it on an island.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go through the rest of the dialogue. It's on in Dornagal, and then get to the other storytelling bits, where they then say, okay, well, Skaga goes, okay, other people have clearly heard this. You're probably not the only one. We got to get back out there and get it. And they go, okay, well, Gazlo's getting us a Zeppelin. We'll get in touch with the Grease Monkeys, see if we can get that built faster, get out there quick as hell, because the boat's not going to be fast enough, whatever else. So they're going to an island to get a crystal. Except they're talking about this in public in Donegal. It's
having
not
a chat?
Yeah, it's not quiet in the corner. This is kind of scuttlebutt going about. And who else with the dawn of 11.0.5 are actually in Donegal? Arathi engineers. You find Hallowfall engineers around the Forge grounds talking to people, stuff like that, and you're like, that's very interesting. There are two Earthen, right?
It's Azerite 2.0.
It is, yeah.
It's the rush for... Oh, my God.
Yes, but not as...
Yeah, I'm messing with you.
So the thing about it being... there's a link here where there's two Earthen talking, and one says, I only heard a little bit, something about a crystal found on an island, and the other goes, that must be why the Arathi are interested.
Yeah.
So the Arathi have heard about this crystal and are going, crystal, fucking go. So the other thing that I have to bring up then is what the Arathi are doing with these Hallowfall engineers.
Okay.
You find an airship engineer, Valenta Thuradale, and Vokret, the Earthen, who's the market reeve of the Forge grounds, and they're talking about a construction project. A construction project that they're getting lots of materials for very quickly because of all the work we did to restore everything. All the supply lines are going. They're like, everyone's mining like crazy down the Ring of Deeps. They're firing the stuff up the like access hatch of the Coreway. Materials flush. They're all free and doing whatever they want. And the Captain Lancecat, who is the Sky Captain Elena Lancecat of the Dauntless, is pleased with the progress. And they're all like, okay, we're building this thing really, really fast. We're setting up like the rest of our engineers' tools, all of them, everything they've got to build whatever they're building. And they don't say what it is they're building, but it's an airship engineer. And she says that the engineering standards for our airships are quite strict. Airships, plural. Mm-hmm. So everyone's kind of thinking, are you building an airbase on the Isle of Dorn?
Do they struggle? Oh, on the Isle of Dorn itself, uplands.
Yeah, because they.
Because
airships can't go up the Coreway.
Oh, that's pretty obvious. Never thought about that.
Yeah, the Hallowfall airships are stuck in the cavern.
Yeah,
they can't go anywhere. Like, obviously, you could break it down and take it up, whatever, but you'd still have to do that.
So, like my first assumption was an airship big enough to fend off the spooky things that are floating about through the sea. But no, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
overland.
They're building it overland on the Isle of Dorn. We don't see anywhere on the isle, at least not that I've seen, that they are building something. It's just been talked about, so maybe that's going to come later or something.
Oh, the 07 patch. The 07 patch, oh god, it almost reminds me of the Argent tournament where, like the patch before the Argent tournament, the tournament grounds were there and there was like dailies and stuff. If they wanted to try to bring the narrative together in a more smooth way, the 07 patch could perhaps be that construction project.
Yeah.
Or at least that could be like a, open world activity, whatever. And then the 0.1 patch would be whatever the result of this is.
Okay, so
That's just a theory.
why not use teleportation? There's a very quick answer to that for the Arathi. They don't have any mages. Now, they could theoretically ask Earthen mages for help and stuff like that, but I
Yes.
think the intention is they're building a base, which they don't have. They can't teleport a base. And obviously, I saw someone there say, but like Jaina can teleport boats. Yeah, they're not going to ask Jaina for help. The Arathi are, outside of like getting the Earthen supplies,
I'd
they're
also,
kind of self-contained.
I'd also like to think that Jaina teleporting a boat was a big mistake.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
It's like, okay, here's an example, because I know that you like the shot. The whole Star Destroyer, or whatever it was, go to light speed, cut the thing in Last Jedi, where it was a beautiful shot. That looked really cool.
Extremely cool. But
The big problem then is, why is nobody else weaponizing light speed? But people start to think about, I'm sure there's ways they do in Star Wars that are canonical, but people then think about the implications of that. Where, you shatter a bit of your world building stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, imagine, say, like, you do a Battlestar Galactica-like show, but then you just change something that people can do, and now prior episodes don't make any sense.
yeah, you're basically introducing different elements of power scaling in really, really badly.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what happens a lot of the time in WoW, where
Oh, it's just really cool. So really cool was Jaina's going to summon the big boat from the cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really seen her do anything like that since, and I have a feeling they're just like, forget it.
yeah,
I know. We can bring in a bit of Vin Diesel and say that she was only able to do that because she was using family magic, and that's the only reason why she can do it in that boat, because it's family magic. No, you can't do it with someone else's boat. That's ridiculous.
yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So the Arathi are building an airbase, and for the sake of now, we will assume that this is to chase the crystal, because there's another thing I want to talk about at some point. It's all in the article, of course, but maybe I'll leave that for a video or something, because it's a little bit lengthy in talking about the Arathi at length. Said length twice, but there's some other thing where we know they're building something on the surface, because I saw people ask that. Where's the proof? There's 2 Earthen Storm Rangers who are over by the Storm Rangers are basically a new thing that aren't the Storm Riders. They're kind of more Elven Ranger inspired. It's literally a new organization to kind of show that they're growing and changing and all that stuff. So they were talking and saying, I heard they're planning to build something here on the surface. And then do you think the council board would object to their project? And kind of goes, don't know, but he's been in talks with them. So obviously if they're building a base and Merrick's goes, this is kind of our island. Do you fucking mind, please?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of chance for drama there, because what are the Arathi building a base for? To fly out to the crystal, possibly. But do you need more airships for that? Where else do they have to go?
It's like you could scout out.
Yeah.
I guess, the implication is they need a form of power. You can fly, I guess, right, you can fly a drone somewhere to find out what's going on, but if you want to project power, you need a carrier strike group.
Yeah. So they're probably going to send a fleet over.
They're just going to send the Gerald Ford out to see what the crack is.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Because if they're like, there's a crystal over there, we're going to go over to it and see what the crack is.
Yeah.
They're not going to send like 2 boys and go, let's see, that's all right. They're going to send an army because they want to control that island.
Yeah.
They will want that island for themselves, like they have the Howl of All Caverns.
And the crystal, I guess, also remember, so we help them out and our interests are really aligned. But they are seemingly a giant monolithic theocracy. So
Okay, if you're talking about back home.
Well, just the
because-
Arathi themselves, how they think. You look at a character like General Steel Strike, even the side quest where you're just having dinner with the Steel Strikes.
Good quest.
Good quest.
Very good.
But you're going to do that because you want to amp up the drama later on.
Yeah. So that's where I think I might as well just get into it now, because I have it all here.
I mean, Faerun outright dropping the hints of, some of your kind wouldn't be welcome at home.
Yeah, so that's one thing. We can assume they're going for the crystal, but I had a thought, which is, what would the Arathi be doing now? Because we kind of sorted everyone's problems, right?
It's very good of us, yeah.
Yeah, we're no further along. We're still going, what the fuck's Azeroth making noise for? We've got a vague idea, but we don't really know what to do about it. We're kind of in the place where the next plot progression is us kind of waiting around for something to happen, in a way. outside of, the Titan Disc fragment quests, maybe is the only real direction we have. And that's kind of more info dumpy than it is plot direction.
And the idea of the plot being kicked forward by groups and power structures in the world doing something is such a nice contrast to some points in the past where it was the cast of fantasy EastEnders.
Yeah.
Remember, especially during the Shadowlands time, some of the BFA times, even though BFA was supposed to be this big, continent-spanning existential war, it really was quite driven by what are these small casts of characters doing. Whereas here, if it's, the Arathi are launching an expedition and they obviously want that. They have their own desires, beliefs, goals. They're an agent in the world and they force everybody else's hand, or maybe the goblins do. That actually makes it feel like the World of Warcraft's a world and not just a small melodrama.
Yep, exactly. So a few people have kind of got it, which is, they're going home. Where else do they have to go? Their home empire, calling troops.
Oh, yeah.
That's one possibility.
Because they were stuck and they're no longer stuck.
Exactly. I was thinking, well, what are they going to do next, right? What are they going to do? What's everyone going to do, was my thought. Well, the Earthen are kind of just, they're chilling. They're just back to doing whatever they want to do. They can go and make pottery over by Freywold Village, or they can, help to fix the Coreway, things like that. But, and then, and Ashkahet is the other people. They're kind of, I suppose the Earthen up and down are both kind of doing whatever they want to do. The Ringing Deeps and Machine Speakers are all back to full force. Ashkahet, they just lost their queen. Their empire's got new leaders in the Severed Strands, so they're like, okay, well, we have to rebuild. So they'll be on that, and they'll just they probably won't be doing much for a while while they sort that out.
They won't be rejecting power externally. They've got to fix shit.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a long way back. But the Arathi are like, well, we now, Bellular's still going dark, which is something that needs kind of solved. But they have access to the surface again. They have access to, they don't have the war with the Nubians at all. They have their own homesteads. They have the Earthen trading with them. They have the Earthen giving them supplies and letting them seemingly build this airbase.
Well, Bellular still going dark makes sense because then they need external resources to...
Yeah, but it means they now have, what are they going to do? And it's like they can, because what actually happened to them was their mission was put on pause by not being able to finish it.
Yeah.
Because they got there, they were teleported, they're like, mission complete, we found Bellular. Our fucking mages are dead. We can't finish our mission.
And Jaina can't teleport them home.
Yeah, because she doesn't know where home is. Otherwise, that would be really weird and stupid.
Also, weird Storming Sea stuff. You don't know if there's Titan funny business.
Yeah, and you also you can't send one airship across. You need a fleet. You need a base, because they came over by a fleet and only one survived or only a couple survived by pure luck, basically. So to go back, you're going to have to go through the Storming Sea again, relive that. So you're going to need to have a force do that. So their next step is, we can get back to what we were trying to do 15 years ago, which is go home and get the Empire over to get the Emperor over to Bellular. So that's one of their next steps. As to whether that's the point that we're going to see soon, or if that's a little bit later down the road, it does bring me to all of the drama that's inherent in that. Because we have Faerun, and if the Empire, assume the Emperor comes over. They establish teleportation, or they establish some sort of route, whatever. The Emperor comes over. What's he going to be doing? Is he going to come over and be like, new allies. Well, lads, how's it going? This crystal's pretty fun. Does anyone know what's going on? I have a funny feeling the Emperor, if it's the same one, I can't remember his name, Thoradin the Fourth, if it's the same one, or if too much time has passed and be his son or whatever else, but they have a history of conquest through steel. Literally, that's what they're proud of. That's what they talk about. Yeah. They conquered their continent.
Blood and iron.
Yeah, so... if he shows up, he's not going to be like, can I have a look at Bellular, everyone? If Anduin meets him on Donegal and goes, hello, Emperor, I also like the light. Do you want to be friends? The Emperor's more likely to slap his hand away and say, who the fuck do you think you are? I'm the Emperor. Don't look at me. Don't touch me. I'll kill you and all your people. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be some decorum to it, of course.
Well, an Emperor of an empire like that is likely going to be different from, the King of Stormwind.
Yeah.
A dude who rules a city and a few flipping hamlets.
Yeah, he's going to show up and be like, so the Isle of Dorne and Castle Gar is now mine. I have an army at my back. Fucking deal with it. Which is rife for drama because of obviously the Earth and go, but we're your mates. And he goes, who the fuck are you, rocking dickheads? I don't care. Faerun, obviously, isn't going to like that. Some of the Howlfall Arathi aren't going to like that. So there's a very clear distinction in how the side quests and how the lore books of Hollowfall actually kind of set up a schism between the Hollowfall Arathi and the Arathi Empire. Not all Hollowfall Arathi belong to the Arathi Empire in ideology anymore because of the time away.
That'll be way better for culture building than like previous Blizzard things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be real stuff in there. Now, as to where that happens is a different story, because I think the focus now is going to be on that crystal, which I haven't said it out loud. Everyone in chat's kind of got to the same point. It's the top of Bellular, right? It could be something else. There's nothing to suggest that it's the top of Bellular. Outside of it's a crystal, it's big, it's kind of eerie, and the Arathi are interested. So for, if I were writing this, I would not be enough of an asshole to say it's a separate crystal, by the way. And I don't think Blizzard will do that anymore.
You don't need to introduce a second crystal when you already have a big crystal that's been a massive narrative focus.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. By all rules of storytelling, it's just Bellular.
Though there is the Xalatath crystal from Season of Discovery, but I think that's just a cute nod more than anything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And like you say, well, why did the goblins not say, it's Bellular? Because the goblins didn't see Bellular.
Yeah, no shit.
They're not down Hollowfall.
The Venture Co. goblins are also like a different bunch.
Yeah, they're in Ashkahet, and they were never near Hollowfall to begin with. The Venture Co. now, yes. So we've got the goblins to talk about as well, because the goblins is actually our next patch's focus, right? As far as we can tell from the Goblin Raid icon and things like
Goblin Raid. I mean, you could call Dazar. Yeah, you could call Dazara Lore Troll Raid. And it is a raid in a troll place, but there's more than that going on.
That's true.
If they say Goblin Raid, that could just as easily be an Arathi assault on goblins from their big base. Or that could be an element of it. Like, I guess not every raid has got to be the palace of some enemy where you kill a bunch of lackeys and the big boss at the end. There are raids like Dazara Lore that are more of a story.
So I fully agree with you.
But
however, I do have some evidence from Blizzard themselves.
Oh shit.
Monty Gaslow says this is in the questing down in Ashkahet when you're in not Loam, what's it called, Marl, the new Niffin place down there.
Don't take me back to Loam.
Yeah, with the venture company, Jenny Boombuckle and Monty or Gaslow trying to put a stop to her.
Yeah,
and they kind of end up being like sort of not friends, but on equal terms. And I think he's trading her a flamethrower or something like that. And he goes, "The low price is a friendly meal over at Corby's Cabana. I want to hear more about where you're from." And she goes, "You mean Undermine? Sure, I'm in." And you're like, okay, well, Gaslow being good at picking up the Goblin ladies aside, that is the Undermine mentioned. Then it's not just mentioned there, because he says to you right after, "We'll need to be careful with the venture company, but there's no need to fight them while we're here on other business," which is different from us murdering them every time we see them.
Yeah.
Particularly when they mention undermining casual conversation, that warrants further chat.
That does. And
Gaslow saying that to us is also Blizzard telling us directly the undermine's a thing you should remember and think about it. Which is also why...
if a character casually mentions it, that means it's coming.
Yeah.
It's like Dragon Isles just happening to be in a, little book thing that...
Kazlagar just happening to be in a book.
Yeah.
The Emerald Dream stuff just happening to be in a book. Aluna here just happening to be in a book. Like, that's Blizzard's new storytelling technique. Their new MO is to seed this stuff in the patch, so then we all get to be excited about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, it works really well, because I really, really like putting stuff together. What was the other thing about it? Yes, the other thing was that the goblins tunneled in Ashkat, the venture company. And they are also, the ones in the Ringing Deeps are also there, inexplicably, at Opportunity Point. So I won't get too deep into Opportunity Point, because I could talk about that for ages, because of the Kajamite connection and all that stuff, and the mortality connections. But I will say, there's what looks like a caved-in tunnel beside the elevator that goes back up to the Orcreg.
Oh.
There's what looks like a caved-in tunnel, and they said they burrowed in. But you think about where they burrowed in from.
They just boring companied over.
Yeah, so in... I'd probably better if I could show the map, but maybe I'll just do that, actually, because I have it here. Let me just, because I was going to start gesturing wildly with my hands. I'm like, this is where it is.
Like
this
you're
is
casting
where it is.
a spell.
Yeah, it's like, do you know they're over to like the south kind of easty bit? So here we have.
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
So, is it here? Yes. So, this is my character facing the tunnel in the Ring of Deeps. It comes in from the southeast. That circle there is roughly where Kazan is, and Undermine is under Kazan. So it literally lines up that they went over this. They went over this direction and ended up in Ashkat or the Ring of Deeps. It just makes sense. It's a literal there's a bit of a curve to it, but otherwise it's just dig.
Yeah.
Just dig, and there you go. You've got that. So basically, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming together here that is just our next major story piece. And this is without seeing any story quests on the actual 11.0.5. All that stuff's encrypted. Like there's an encrypted Silver Covenant Ranger, I think she's called, and it's just Vrisa, basically. It's just not the actual Vrisa model yet, I think. So there's that to
is it if you're doing questing with the character, but then you see another person questing with the character character gets renamed to Silver Covenant Ranger, not Clearia?
Yeah, I think so anyway. There's multiple map connection points that are inaccessible, just like the Zarlak Cavern. Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those down there in the Ring of Deeps. So basically, yeah, that's kind of it. The only thing about that conversation that's weird is Lady Goblin saying the Undermine to Gazlo and other goblins if he wouldn't know about it. I think there's an element of goblins being from different enough places when they grow up that they aren't all central to the Undermine. They might know of it, but they wouldn't actually know huge amounts about it or how it is now. There's also an element of Blizzard being directly talking to the player there, so I kind of get what you're saying, but I think it's maybe not that super. I don't think it's too bad realistically.
Yeah, do I actually know if we know where Gazlo was born?
No clue. So the only other two things I want to talk about in regards to the Undermine the Goblins is there's the seeds kind of sown by the short story A Goblin Way.
Yeah.
Which was before, and it was all Gazlo, showing up and being all like, yeah, do the things right. Don't abuse your workers. But there was a particular bent on that, was very specifically Noggenfogger says, what are you, a shaman now or something to that effect? And he goes, actually, I have heard that the elementals are really mad and Azeroth's not happy. So that's another angle for them to push that story, which we saw on the Isle of Dorn. We see it in the Ring and Deeps. We see the elementals up and in arms and doing stuff. So that's a thing they could push with that, especially with Undermine, because we do have that problem of what are the venture company doing everywhere they go? They're wrecking the planet. And obviously you turn around and go, did Greta Thunberg fucking write this? And it's to a degree, sort of yes, but I think it works in the grand scheme of things in terms of we have shamans and stuff like that, talk about that kind of thing. And there's a lot of undertones there as well across the story.
It's also been there with the venture company since 2004 and probably from goblins in Warcraft RTS from...
Yeah.
It's not a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, Warcraft 3, what do you do with a goblin shredder? You tear down the forest for the orcs, So it makes sense. The other part then is...
do they do it in a way where it feels natural and it doesn't feel like the characters then look directly at you through the screen and say, and the message of this is that... You got to do things deftly and sort of not be ham-fisted.
Yeah, the Goblin Engineering Wave boards, the trading post, the recruited friend, Goblin Armor and Mount, and the Shield Wing that was said in the dialogues or in the description specifically to be from Undermine. Yeah, they've been building towards it in a huge way, which I think is... It works. I think it's great. The last thing then is because the venture company are traditionally our antagonists.
Yes.
But if Gazlo's approach in A Goblin Way is indicative of how we'll see reform in goblins, it's probably not going to be from walking into Undermine and killing every venture company goblin we see. I think there's a word for that, which I'm not going to repeat. But I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna have the venture company be in the way that they're open to interpretation or open to negotiation with money. Gazlo might just turn around and be like, you can make more profit by not being short-sighted, and then convince them of that and going, fuck, actually, all right, let's try to do that.
Yeah, so good. Potentially. They can make it a Warcraft story that is it's not about Greta, it's about long-term shareholder value instead of short-term shareholder value.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly. Now we do need villains, of course. We'll need people to kill. Gallywix, don't know, because Gallywix was last spotted in Tazavesh, cozying up to the brokers. So God knows what that means for him if they continue that forward, or he just shows up eventually, or he's been secretly in Undermine working forever. But the last part of Goblins to talk about is, outside of the side quests, which are kind of sort of relevant, the Dark Fuse. You may have noticed the Dark Fuse Goblins in the max level campaign. They were the ones in the Deep Forge, Golem Works, I want to say. And they were the ones just stopping us from putting together our Earthen army that we needed to deal with the ultimate threat of Xalatath and Rubians. So we sorted that out with Brint and Dagran. And Zizi, the little robot thing, which is obviously a Star Wars thing, because it's all the little terminology things.
Oh, yeah.
Which is all right. That's good enough. But the Dark Fuse didn't die, and their origins weren't explored. Supervisor Radlock was like, shit, we've been got, team, let's get him next time. You know, full fucking Team Rocket kind of shenanigans get out of there. So the Dark Fuse is this, like, unexplained goblin mercenary faction that have dark in the name. Just like, you know, Dark Flame.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, well, did Xalatath, following her general MO throughout the entirety of the expansion so far, which is Ansarek and Stormgord and the Candle King, and the other one that I forget now, who was the Elric lead of the Order of Night, is that another person that she was like, let me explain to you the power of the dark magic void stuff that'll make you really cool.
Yeah, okay, so they could still work her in, and I guess if Xalatath's whole thing, because her whole thing is basically being, I will solve your problem, there are no downsides to this deal, then, I mean, goblins, greedy, want resources, yeah, it makes sense, they're kind of manipulatable. So there you go. That's a bunch of things, and we'll probably see Undermine, but we'll probably also see maybe an island with Big Crystal on it,
with the top of Bellular on it.
Yeah,
which would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Just need Velen to show up and go, I know exactly what this is. It's a spaceship, and here's all the narrows.
Plot hole.
I know them all by name. And he goes, shit. Good thing you're not here.
Okay, it would be good if they get Velen to pass comment. The next story, though. Is Mythic Plus. Is it dead? Is it alive? Have delves killed it? Are the players terrible? Are the players good? Who knows? What's going on? But Blizzard have done changes, so you will get something out of this, not just random woolly ideas.
How do I answer this diplomatically? World of Warcraft players, as we've discussed in the most week ago and covers for that, dog shit players everywhere. All of them. All of you, apparently.
All of us. We all suck. We all suck.
No, not me. I'm great.
Other than him.
Yeah, obviously.
Assuming it's not phase 1 of Ansarek.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Well, it does sort of bubble up to my head. I remember and it feels against type for r/WoW. But there was a post basically saying, quit the fucking complaining. Half of these problems are people just having their eyes closed and not actually trying to play the game that they've bought. And usually you see that kind of thing be shot down as, this is elitist. Blizzard are balancing the game for high key pushers and mythic players. But instead it flew up to the top of r/WoW, which you don't normally see. It was interesting to me. I wouldn't really have... I mean, I've literally never pugged Mythic Plus this expansion, and I never intend to. But we talked recently, even of Sloopbag and Towley deciding to do that as a bit of an experiment, having an awful time. And certainly when you go onto r/WoW or just any of the places where WoW's discussed, people are continually talking about just horror stories of keys getting bricked, time being wasted. And obviously, if you're Blizzard, that is a problem. Because if it's the problem where players don't understand the mechanics they're dying to, therefore groups break, keys get bricked, well then Blizzard depletes keys, so they make that worse. Blizzard doesn't do a great job of tutorializing all these elements in the game, so it is sort of their problem. So it's all kind of hard. What's going on?
Yeah, so for a little bit of a tease of specifically that, I have a segment that we'll get to a little bit later called Let's Build a Tutorial Together, but this is where I've put the Reddit posts of people being very kind of, this is literally a problem about how players engage with the video game.
Yeah, so they're physically painful, beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of tease of that. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the changes first, I think.
Okay.
Because these are kind of the first thing to kind of discuss and like how they're handling this problem. And it is, are these changes enough to keep Pugging alive? Is the question. What's the answer? Who knows? So there's community sentiment, not segment, community sentiment. The community sentiment segment, say that fast, before the changes. It's pretty like, this is the worst I've ever seen. He personally thinks it's people thinking a 5 is a 5 from pre-squish. I don't know if I'd put much stock in that. But it's possible.
That
it's possible.
assumes,
It's
I
possible.
think that assumes too much thought and simultaneous not thought.
Yeah.
Because that's thinking about the new thing, but I don't know. I think a lot of this is just players see system. They want to progress through system. They do so at whatever pace there is, and then they immediately run into problems. I have a feeling it's almost entirely reactive and over intellectualizing it by giving a simple logical reason of how the system changed. There's value in that, but the actual problem is people having a really bad emotional experience. There's something about how this content's positioned, how it's framed, people's expectations, all of that woolly shit that you can't really get right in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's a very good way to describe exactly the this is a good logical solution, but it is in fact a rationalization that kind of ignores the more simple truth.
Because even in the old system,
it's a problem.
like I'd never pug Mythic Plus.
Yeah,
I'd always guild only.
Yeah, I think it's people definitely aren't thinking. So we have go back into the Mythic Plus 9 to 10 grinder. That's where we get to the changes. But give us a wee second to go through the rest of these. Don't interrupt our segment. Is there anyone?
Yes.
Is there anyone who's actually happy with
funny.
the state of M plus? It's been very negative all around. It's been correct. People who have concrete groups are happy with it. With people who pug are miserable. That's my experience. I have intentionally not pugged.
Yep.
Getting KSM with a group and not doing any except with that group has been fantastic.
Shadow Vault, I keep on here. Is it Shadow Vault? Storm Vault, yeah.
Yep.
I keep on here. The one you kill Elgin or whatever, Elric at the end. Iric, yes. It was really fun. Mm-hmm. Although, from what I see, the few times I go onto Twitter these days, it's like a hated dungeon.
Yeah, because you're running with us.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And
I enjoyed the mechanics.
We are players who generally know roughly what we're doing. We're not great. We're not great. We struggled to time 7s, but we got there in the end. But that was like, we knew your interrupts. We knew what things we're doing. Our tank and healer are immensely coordinated. We're roughly sort of coordinated. I only pull with Frostworm's Fury wrong sometimes.
Well, we know how to use the things in our toolkit that Blizzard design around.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
What changes have happened?
Quest reward thresholds have been lowered.
Okay.
This is what I was saying with the 9-10 grinder. It's now an 8 to 10 grinder because the ruined crests now drop from 7 instead of 8s, and gildeds, which are the ones people are trying to get and feeling,
Myth Great,
drop from mythic gear. This is if you get gilded to finish heroic items to fully max them out.
Yeah.
Which does raise an interesting question that I'll maybe bring up later with the intent of the system and the lead into the next thing, maybe being misleading for people. But this is people who want to farm for quests. You can now spam +8s, which is there. And then there's also a big buff to Xal'atath Bargain, which is all of the umbrella term for all of the Xal'atath affixes before you hit 12.
Oh, the buffs are now a
30
third
seconds.
longer.
No, that's 50% longer.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a 50% buff.
Wow.
That's gigantic. And
That's
then
another 10 seconds of basically mini heroism.
Yep, exactly. And then Xal'atath Guile is now down to 10% from 20, which is only very few people watching this.
Yes.
Is really probably
that
don't care
is
too much.
basically the big ball buster at +12.
Yeah, that's we're the key pushers. So I'll probably never do a 12 plus because I'm not about that life and I don't have a group who wants to do that. But it's mini Bloodlust Alliance players. Sorry, filthy word anyway. Yeah, so that's like the big change. The big two changes of these. It's literally okay. We will now. It's literally one key earlier, which because the difficulty is not linear, as anyone will attest to.
Yes.
The difficulty is far from it. It is a very, very, very steep curve of difficulty. Going up one will mean complete life or death.
Scaling percentage increases plus discrete breakpoints.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also some individual hotfixes, which are very small ones. which is basically Rashanan. You know the way Rashanan's the braid boss?
Yeah.
He used to heal percentages.
Oh,
which,
that's fun.
If he got any healing, the fight was over and you just lost. And then Dark Orbit kind of fixed. Dodgeball will no longer inflict damage to illusions or add cubes at that. Our head had a nice little post going, PSA, the dodgeballs will hurt the mobs. And I was like, I don't remember that from playing Shadowlands. That's interesting if they've added that and told anyone, but it turns out it was a bug. But not necessarily just being a bug that they're fixing. It's also that's unintended design, which is something that's also happened in Necrotic Wake. But I'll finish talking about this first because these are the hot fixes that are live now. Red Hook can no longer be pulled by Halo and Starfall. So if you were just a priest or a druid trying to do AoE in the boss room, you just pull the boss. So they fixed that nicely. But with next reset, you're going to find that the Gatekeeper is weaker again. That was reduced by 25% in the last thing as well.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big, like 30-something% decrease. And more, basically you'll be able to skip some more stuff because the monstrosity is worth more now. So I think they're kind of not happy with some of these small things. Then
and I think the big one, Stageface himself, 20% less health.
Yep.
Festering Rock damage down 30%.
Yeah, so that rot damage is huge. That health reduction isn't that huge because the bloody javelins no longer stack. Which was how people were basically getting through Stitch Flesh.
Gotcha.
So like they did with the dodgeball going, that's not part of our intention for the encounter for you to aim all the dodgeballs.
They giveth, they taketh
Yeah,
away.
that seems too difficult. Stacking the bloody javelins required group coordination and discussion. And for some reason they don't like that, for pugs and how things have happened. Because one of the big problems is people haven't been doing javelins. So what they thought was possible was
But that's because that's a dungeon-specific thing, not a general game-wide thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can't count on people. They can't count on people knowing that that's anything other than a little bit of flair. Yeah. And it's probably something that most people would assume is for trash only, not a boss.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who doesn't know picks up the javelin, throws it at a mob pack because it feels efficient, and then you can't kill the boss. It's been happening.
Yeah,
all month.
That'll feel rightly unintuitive.
Yep.
If you can get all of a dungeon just with your regular capabilities of your group, but one boss requires withholding usage of a resource somewhere, then that's a difficulty spike that should be rounded out.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Sure. And then the last one is Stone Vault, which is just getting some flat nerfs to the two bosses that are massive pains in the ass. In terms of just being long, drawn-out fights, I find.
Yeah.
I
think the problem here is I think a lot of what people want is progression with their character in an MMO where the numbers go up in a way that is sometimes similar to why like progression in a game like Diablo can feel good. I think the reason why Diablo just gets to be its own sort of progression game is because you can just sort of play that in a big dazed flow state for 50 hours. And obviously different if you're playing in hardcore, which is why a lot of people love hardcore. In WoW, a lot of people want the basic sort of gameplay and progression of WoW, but they don't actually want to play the WoW that Blizzard and some players enjoy. They don't want to play that. They don't want to play a version of WoW where you've got to manage your interrupts, or a version of WoW where you gotta know whatever thing there is, and Blizzard, in fairness, don't do a good job at all of tutorializing that. So it's a bit weird because like all of WoW basically just teaches you have defensives. Sometimes people use those, maybe. And you have your core rotation. And that's kind of it. And for a lot of people, they're not going to use half the shit in their spell book. Like at the end of the day, that's how it is. You know it if you've pugged M+ or seen people pug M+, because the game never asks you to do any of that. And if they do, Warlock Green Fire, there's a silver proving ground requirement in WoD. Mm-hmm. There's a massive backlash. And so you have this weird thing where they've made a game and they've made progression that everybody wants. But at a certain point to get that progression, you need to actually play the game. And a lot of people find out that they don't enjoy the bits of WoW that are the kind of the more unique mechanical expression of WoW, they are just going to want the sort of default, MMO, number go up, grind thing, do more damage, a bit more, less the details, less the specifics.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't interested in that whatsoever to begin with, which is one of the things of like the audience you're catering to.
Yeah.
Where you're catering to such a wide and such a different sets of audiences with the same game that you kind of try to push them all through the one gearing system. And it is just you're trying to push a lot of people through a cheese grater. And some of these people are not cheese. Some of these people are bricks and wreck your grater.
Whoa.
And you're like, damn, that didn't work too well. There was something else, which is... I think that the fact that they're being funneled through the gear system, and I think that this specific change is kind of indicative of it, the changing the quests. And I think this is probably going to be fine for most, but it doesn't resolve the actual underlying kind of problem, which is that this is a game that's like, say you imagine you're playing any single player action game or whatever else. Generally speaking, you have a soft enough difficulty curve throughout the game, and if there's gear involved in this game, generally speaking, you're playing like a God of War. Maybe you're playing like why am I thinking of Darksiders 2 is the only game I can think of. Maybe even you're playing a Souls game, right? And if you can't beat the boss, what do? You go get more gear. You come back, it's easier for you. And those have generally gentle difficulty curves, and you kind of learn bits and bits as you go.
In ways, WoW is a way harder game than the Souls-like.
WoW has
some dimensions.
Oh, for sure, yeah. There's way more.
Like, people talk about how Dark Souls is hard. It's not a hard game. It's a very simple game. It's just a punishing one.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big difference between hard and punishing. The problem with Mythic Plus is once you can't get away with ignoring the mechanics, because like in Dark Souls, there are comparatively so few mechanics and they're so clear that you cannot ignore them.
And even then, a lot of people do play it by ignoring mechanics as best they can with like really heavy builds and like out gearing stuff and things like that. Obviously, there's like an availability of upgrade items that kind of limits you to some degree. But you can always come back and
World of Warcraft, to put it this way. It starts off, and it's not, I mean, it's obviously not Call of Duty, but it starts off like Call of Duty. Everyone does a shoot bang. That's, whatever, right? It's the every somebody game. And then you kind of, you make it harder and harder and harder. Demand more mechanics. And now it's no longer Call of Duty. It's actually Titanfall 2. And there's a really, really high skill cap. And loads of people swear, these are the key pushers, they swear by Titanfall 2, peak FPS. For most average Call of Duty players, they go into Titanfall 2, and somebody going at 500 miles an hour has just sniped them from 30 meters above them.
Yeah, they are food for the wolves, like.
But then you get to Mythic Plus 12, it's no longer Titanfall 2, it's now Tribes. And that's obviously, the analogy here is the raw mechanical difficulty of the game. So somebody can be absurdly skilled at Call of Duty and, they can hit every shot perfectly, have the fastest reaction times. But Call of Duty is a mechanically easier game than Titanfall 2.
Yeah,
it's about how hard a game is. So even take something like StarCraft. You've got the audience for ranked ladder 1v1. And for loads of people who like StarCraft, that's actually too stressful and too hard. They'd rather play co-op commanders. The problem with WoW is that within the same difficulty mode, it basically transitions through the one difficulty mode, but in a way that is mediated by the scaling of numbers. So there's not a clear delineation of like, this is no longer for you. Because if you enjoy Call of Duty and you played Titanfall 2 and you don't enjoy it, that's okay, you won't play it. Whereas if the gearing system makes you want to play Titanfall 2 or Tribes, I don't know, to get your flippin' gilded crests, then it's just like those times where, I even remember the campaign in Mists of Pandaria had a little bit where it pushed people through some PvP.
Rough.
There was extreme hatred because to get the progress they wanted, they had to play a type of game they didn't enjoy. And a Mythic Plus 5 is a different type of game to a plus 10, is a different type of game to a plus 12 and beyond.
Yeah. And that's even it for me, because I like World of Warcraft gameplay. But there's not a chance in hell I will probably ever in my life again with a grade. Some of that's because of the effort required, and some of it's like the actual game is just kind of, I'm not about that anymore. Same reason I won't push keys. I am very happy with playing some 7s like KSM. I'm like, that is great. That's good. Maybe I could be pushed to an 8 or a 9 if I maybe want some Gilded Crest, but I am very happy to go. I'm about heroic geared. That's where I'll push to. I'm happy enough there. I'm not worried about going any further because I don't really want to do anymore. Because I know what it looks like because I've been there, and like I don't really want to go there again, to be honest with you. It becomes less fun for me when it gets to that level of difficulty. And it's like, that's not because I don't like playing hard games, just World of Warcraft's difficulty when it hits past a certain breaking point is no longer as enjoyable for me.
And so why that makes sense then is you can just opt to not do Mythic Raid. Now, what if Blizzard did a heroic raid tier that got its difficulty balancing very different to current ones, to the point where maybe by the last quarter of the raid, it feels like a Mythic? Well, then you'd have a position where I signed up for heroic raiding. Why does this now feel like a Mythic? And I think for a lot of people who maybe, they do the early dungeons, they fly through them, they're not getting punished for mistakes, but then suddenly they're just getting pounded, and then they've got there because they're following the rewards, even though they're not the sort of player who actually wants to develop mastery in those specific harder mechanics.
Yeah, and that's especially the case with the framing of the upgrade system. I think it'd be different if you got hero 6 out of 6 and you're like, okay, I'm fully geared. What's next? Myth? I'm not really into Mythic. But the problem lies that you need to get to hero 5 and 6, you need to go up. So your gear's incomplete until you do another step. And they did, like, Blizzard are like fully aware of that. And that's why Gilded Crest started at 9 instead of 10.
They try different ways.
That's why Gilded Crest dropped from the last 2 bosses in Heroic Raid. Because they know that's that little step. I just don't know if it's effective enough or if it's worth it for the damage it does to have that try to push people to the next step.
Yeah, it's like by dangling Gildeds on me, it sort of does nothing positive because I don't see Mythic Raid as a form of progression along the gameplay that I like, because Mythic Raid is a different game to any other form of raid because of its organizational requirements, the impact that has on social stuff, all of that. It's a different thing. Now, if there was a Mythic Raid that we could do with 13 people, or that still resembled the format of Heroic, well, then maybe I would keep on going.
Yeah, especially because the difficulty scaling from Heroic Ansurek to Mythic Ulgrax is like, it's going to be easier, right?
Yeah.
Which is different from Mythic Plus, I think. And can't leave geared 4 out of 6, just a fact. I don't know if you're like taking the piss, but the point is
that's a great point.
Yeah, I think like that's like, if you're taking the piss and saying, well, just leave it there, then I think that's obviously like true, right? You can just leave it there, but the game's kind of going, well, here's the game, you're not finished yet. And obviously you go, well, just stop whenever you want, and that's true. But you even think about it in the case of specific achievement or trophy designs for games, where a lot of developers have realized that putting complete this game on very hard mode as a trophy is damaging to your game, because people who are generally collectors and trophy hunters and stuff aren't people who seek mastery a lot of the time.
Yeah. They're
people who want to play it. And there's a lot of cases where big games will not even ask you to play above story mode for trophies. Just do the stuff. Doesn't matter how you get it done. Just do the stuff. And it's kind of about, like, you can kind of go, well, it's a personal problem, not a game problem. And that is true, but that's true on an individual level. But on a systemic level, as a game designer, everything's a game problem in a way, because that's your like realm of responsibility, is what the game has players do. So it's kind of awkward where it's like a shared responsibility there.
I think,
but
Mythic Plus's problem is it's on a sliding scale, a sliding scale with breakpoints, and that just means that it is still trying to be one size fits all. And the reason I think why delves have ended up being a popular feature is that with delves, people can get the character progression that they want, that because they're not raiders, they previously had to get through pugging M+, they can get a bunch of that through delves instead. And that's just, they get their progress, it's less painful, and they'll genuinely enjoy their WoW time more.
Which is great,
And in that situation, I would as well, because I would never pug M+.
Yeah, that's great. But it's a big but. By the delves giving people the character progression, especially when you're getting heroic gear from your vault, you're then doing that and going, well, okay, I did my tier 8 and I learned how to level Bran, or I learned how to interrupt sometimes. How do I upgrade my gear now? Now that I'm on this treadmill, how do I stay on this treadmill? How do I get more of the understanding?
It doesn't have a discrete you're done point.
Yeah.
Because it overtly dangles doing Mythic Plus. Because the person the delve speaks to is not going to go and find a raid static group to play with. It's going to be M+.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I mean, if you've been getting 6/16s from your flipping great vault via tier 8 bountifuls, and I guess then you're trying to get gilded crests, good lord, like, you're not going to have a good time whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, it's pulling people over into M+, who haven't went through the M+ journey as much. That's a disaster.
Yeah, which also, to be fair, there's some of that is like, some of this is the gears problem, where you come out at your delves and you do your bountifuls and you're like 600 and something else. Yeah, delves leave you at 4 to 6. Yeah, that's clearly by design, because they want that like pathway open for people.
I think the problem is they're going for the hard carrot.
Yeah.
And I think the hard carrot feels like a stick. So
because it is, because you get wrecked.
Because that like, I see what they're doing. They're trying to dangle some more progress in front of you. But it's not via the same verb that got you the progress you currently have. So
it's almost equivalent to you're upgrading your gear from delves and it says go do PvP. And you're like, oh,
well, yeah, because it's a category problem.
Yeah. And it's not even just a category, it's what it asks of you by virtue of being that category. Which is also, I think, a problem with the Mythic Plus scaling and availability. They were kind of onto something when you had to finish a delve to do the next delve.
Yeah.
I don't think they could do it on Mythic Plus.
No.
Because that would be retroactively changing it. But the issue, a lot of that is people can kind of hop into Mythic Plus and go, well, where am I going to get my gear upgrade? I'm going to go to Wowhead or whatever video. I'm going to check the table. And, content creators, etc., are going to tell me to go to
a guide written by our paladin, who I believe at one point recently had a world number 1.
He Dagger was world number 1 paladin in M+ score.
There you go.
I believe he fell to second because he didn't do a key for like 3 days. But he wasn't.
What's easy to him? It's not going to be easy to you or me.
Yeah.
Or most people.
Yeah, and that's the thing where we're talking about. This is how you progress. This is how you progress. Yeah. This is how, if you're a Delves player, this is how you max out. Because you don't say, oh, you've done your like tier 8s. You're done. Keep doing them for Delver's bounty chances.
Seasonal Delver progression, which is so exciting.
Yeah, everyone goes, what?
5. I mean, hey, in 3 months, I could have eye level 580 warbound gear for my alts.
Yeah. Wonderful.
The rewards for delves are weird. They definitely feel very attempt 1.
They're very
attempt 1. The
attempt 1,
cool. Yeah. But even the way you progress through you progress through the thing and you think you've unlocked a reward, but I mean, then it's just like a thing you can go and buy. I don't know. It feels weird.
Yeah, that's a bit awkward. What was something said there that I thought was interesting? Who was it? Sorry. Where'd that go? Oh my god. I apparently completely can't read now. But you maxed out the journey for delves last week. That's a lot of delves. Jeez, I'm like a third of the way through.
Oh, I think
that's
half.
Nuts.
I'm
nuts.
over half. I'm over half.
Yeah, I can't find the comment I was looking at for some strange reason. But I think it was I completely forgot what we were even talking about, to be honest with you. I was that busy looking for it. Is this a World of Warcraft channel?
Yeah, it is.
Is that right? Okay, well that makes sense.
It's just we're talking about the mix-up of player profiles, and you've got one gearing system, one thing of progression, but asking somebody who enjoys delves to go and do a Mythic plus 9 You may as well be asking them to go and play PvP.
Yeah, that's exactly. I actually found what I was looking for, which is plenty of players leap from 2 to 5 into a brick wall. Yeah. The difficulty curve being something along the lines of this is not very good. Because you're like, 2, that was fine. I didn't have to interrupt to use a defensive. That's 5. I didn't have to interrupt to use a defensive. That's 7. Oh my god, we're in our overtime.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet Christ. And I think 9s are easy. Yeah, of course. World of Warcraft is an annoying game because it's always either easy or impossible.
Oh, yeah, you're progressing the boss until the point where you kill it first time for the rest of the tier.
Yeah. Overnax was really hard, and now we one-shot it. Kaivesa
with absolute ease.
Yeah, Kaivesa is still hard because we have some players who need to wake up. But, generally speaking, like Silken Court as well.
Are you clockwise or are you clock foolish?
Yeah, so that's a good one. So, like Silken Court.
That's not a good one.
I loved it. So, like Silken Court, hard fight. And then you clock it and you go,
easy fight.
It's easy. Which is the same for like
many padding opportunities. Good fight.
Yeah, and I think that's for like everything, every single thing. And this is kind of true of everything ever. Things are hard until they're easy. And then they're easy from then on. And
but there's a difference.
And it's almost difficult to remember how things were hard when you find them easy later.
There's a difference with M+. Difference between M+. Zachveer, delves, everything. And that is, we fail a boss, GG go next. You fail a Mythic Plus dungeon. I mean...
You might as well
be your bollock will be stomped upon in the form of a depleted key.
Not even
deplete. Yeah, exactly. Depleted time, depleted life force, and
especially the life force bit.
Yeah, so
the will to continue being depleted hurts the most.
Like think about a game like Super Meat Boy, where somebody's like failing in a level, but as soon as you get turned into mush, you're immediately respawned and you just keep on going.
Milliseconds later.
Now, let's say it's a Mythic Plus dungeon and there's one part of the dungeon that you just really, you're struggling on. Well, if that's a raid fight that's hard, that's fine. You keep on doing it, then you got it and you're really happy. Whereas on Mythic Plus, it feels like a slog through a blizzard because you fail once, the key's bricked, basically.
You go do it again, but easier this time, so you don't learn anything.
Yeah, then you don't learn as much. You think about the way that it sort of hovers anxiety. Again, this is trying to think about the psychological elements of game design, and if you're going to be really punishing, you should probably save being really punishing for a high iteration, sort of deal.
Like a raid, but with a checkpoint.
Yeah, so that's a really good example. If you're doing a raid and you don't have, you can't soulstone, and there's a really long corpse run, that boss, progressing that boss, blows. If someone is soulstoned, they mass res the group. Because you're using a hearty feast, you can immediately go again. That actually means that, you're with Overnex. You're in the flow, you wipe, you're back in the flow again, and you just fast iteration.
Yeah, that's why raiding has been so beloved for so long.
Yeah.
Because it is literally, here's a boss, we fight it, fast iteration, we pull, we got it, nice.
Whereas M+ is very low iteration, very high punishment, and very high... it is very high consequence psychologically, because I think that's the thing with Blizzard.
Insane.
Blizzard's historical problem has been not paying attention to psychology and how they design their game. So the negative reinforcement of the depleted key is just a great example of something that really is sort of kicking people while they're down. Blizzard are going to say, well, that's fair punishment, but Blizzard don't actually, I don't think they appreciate that the key depletion, number one, it means that there's guilt for the 4 people who don't own the key. And often guilt, if something, people don't take on the guilt, they get angry at the other people. So you just think of all of the ways in which Mythic Plus is psychologically designed to be demotivational in a way that Blizzard just doesn't understand, still doesn't understand.
Especially with the 15-second death timer. I understand.
Makes total sense from total sense from a flippin', I'm designing a board game.
Yeah, I understand that perspective really well, but then you think about it from the perspective of, here's a pug group, and there's a druid. Let's say a balanced druid because they sort of lack defensive, so they're going bare form. Say they don't have bark skin up, and they just get hit by mechanic, or maybe they forget to defensive. Maybe they just out of position, and 15 seconds, and that's enough to deplete the key, wherever else. The person they deplete the key from, they're like, I'm sorry. And it's like, you made one mistake and you just set back this person's key by a stage. It isn't sorry, I wasted your time in this dungeon and we're not going to, or, we're going to finish it, but it's not going to go forward.
Oh, sorry, I caused a wipe. We'll go again in 90 seconds.
Yeah. Instead, it's actually, to hell with you. Sorry. To hell with you. I have ruined your key. I've set you back in your personal progress.
It's the video. It's rude to be bad at WoW.
Yeah, that's it. Right, that's it.
Raids, okay, big picture, yes, in Raid, it is possible to be rude to be bad at WoW. But the thing is that small, innocent mistakes that any team is going to have in what you could call a period of training, Raids do not punish that massively because you can just go again.
Yeah, rude isn't a binary. It's a gradation, and it's more rude to be bad in M+. Because you're doing more damage by being bad.
Even if it's a tiny little mistake. So yeah, Mythic Plus still is, I think, very sort of, high systemic level, designed to create anxiety, misery, anger, avoidance of blame, and all of these different things. Blizzard don't intend it, but it's the upshot of the psychology. And Blizzard have always been so, they've always thought gameplay first in this very first order, not very psychological way. They've just been thinking, what are the rules of the game? You got to start to think about, well, what are the psychological upshots of these rules? And how are our opponent games, how can they sort of do the psychology better and beat us up and take our lunch money? Which in Mythic Plus, lots of games could.
Yeah.
On other parts of WoW.
No doubt. Yeah. So I did a thing that I wanted to do, which I think is, how do we solve this, right? Because obviously, based off that conversation, you could look at a whole bunch of different things in M+ and go, well, you could solve key depletion, sort it. Make the difficulty curve a little bit less like you're, a fucking half pipe in a Tony Hawk's game. Make it a little bit more smooth, have that sort of stuff.
Easy.
Yep.
Mythic Awakening the Machine.
That would be a good shout.
Sorry.
That would be a good shout, honest to God.
That's why Awakening the Machine is so flippin' annoying. Because it's too slow, it's too easy, it's so annoying. Though, you can almost see a version of it that's fun. Where you're like, oh, I made it to Awakening the Machine level 53. Woohoo! Like people doing the endless proving ground. Right, the problem, because the thing you're posing here is, how do you tutorialize World of Warcraft? Actually, how the bloody hell do you play the thing at endgame? No part of World of Warcraft teaches this. No dungeon experience in your level up flow will teach this. A heroic or even Mythic Zero dungeon will barely teach it. You'll only feel it later on. And I know that in that post, people are even talking about consumables. Is it rude to go to a Mythic Plus without having a hearty food or whatever?
Without a basic health potion,
yeah,
they're so cheap, they're so free, and they will save your life every 5 minutes.
Yeah, but why does flippin' wee Bobby not buy one? Why doesn't he?
Yeah, why does he not use the Cave Dwellers potions he already has in his bag?
Who knows?
Interesting.
It'll feel like it's because he wants to spite you, but it's not.
No, it's because he's stupid. That's it. It's because he specifically is an idiot and a moron and should uninstall.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Or is it that Blizzard could do a better job at the game?
Both.
Yeah.
Both's always the answer.
Yeah, realistically both. I think, I think this is hard. So,
yeah,
I remember when I was trying to learn different classes way back in the day, the first thing that I would do, say in like a healer, when I basically had not healed in years, go to the proving ground, complete, get to doing the gold proving ground, which is easy, but
astonishingly so.
you'll get you'll get the basics. You might not be mana efficient, whatever, but you'll get the basics. Now, the reason why I did that is because I wanted to learn how to heal. So if somebody is healing to progress or doing DPS to progress, then the issue with having even if you have a proving ground that teaches, the dispels, or that gives you loads of interruptible abilities, but only one or two that you really need to interrupt, so it's actually testing your judgment. Well, they're not going to do that because they don't want to be great at WoW. They want great feedback from WoW. And that means a great DPS meter if they're a DPS player. They want to get that perfect, AoE scenario, use all their, do everything great and feel amazing because the game and their add-ons are giving them such good feedback saying, good job, good job, good job. But that's only a part of the difficulty that Blizzard are making. And the number one way that they could teach you that in the Proving Ground is incentivized in no way. So even if you had the Proving Ground, that would absolutely solve all of our problems and people could do their own Rocky training montage. Maybe if they had the mythic Proving Ground that was actually hard as nails. If they took the punishment of the Warlock Greenfire and they threw that into a Proving Ground such that anybody who could do that Proving Ground would have to know the mechanics by the end. Doesn't fucking matter. No one's going to do it. Because it's not incentivized. It's not part of the progression. And the one time when they put a silver Proving Ground, silver in Warlords of Draenor. Now, silver, you can do with your not with your eyes closed, but I mean, it's really easy. It's like
it genuinely baffles me that people couldn't.
Yeah, it's like a tier 2 delve. It is so easy.
It was astonishing. If you haven't done it, go try it out. It's really funny how, if you're a new player or whatever, it's funny that this is the thing that caused the problem. And the drama, people unable to do it,
was over heroic dungeons at launch. Heroic dungeons, and they were not super hard.
No, not at all.
So,
not at all.
Your problem here is real hard to solve.
Yeah, because this is why I wanted to set us let's build a WoW tutorial together, because I think it's very easy to go, well, just tutorialize it.
You need to build an incentivized journey.
Let's go, yeah. Because even the Hall of the Novice in FF, which is getting updates to teach individual boss mechanics, raid mechanics soon, so you'll know what a stack and a tank buster and a spread and all those things are. Even that's incentivized through gear rewards for a new player. And questing stuff, but even then it's not particularly there. Another thing is what's it called? Oh my god, what's it called? The Sky Seed Stone or Sea Sky Stone? Whatever's in FF, there's a training dummy that has a timer and an amount of health, and if you can beat that, there's one for every raid boss. If you can beat that, then you have the DPS. Without
WoW screws all this, and WoW screws this across almost all the game. So you think about the amount of, ostensibly the amount of content in WoW, but you only know it's content if you start browsing the in-game achievement list. Now, if you wanted to have if you've got a bunch of rares in the world or something, you could put a little hunting board up in town, and that could have a UI and progression, and maybe a little boss fight in it. And suddenly, instead of people getting adventure of the whatever zone because you've, ticked off a bunch of rares randomly, well, then people would actually see that presented to them as a piece of content because there's a place in the world, there's, a more proper bit of custom UI for it. So it needs to be framed. It needs to be framed. And I guess, you see, the trouble is it's all pre-made group finder. If this was done, if it was done that you unlock your badge and then the group finder lets you do something, at least you could frame a little, you could kind of frame that as a quest or something for your character, and then you'd make it account wide, obviously.
Warbind wide.
Warbind. Sorry.
Warbind.
I know I keep on breaking the official style guide, and they've actually stopped sending us checks now. It's terrible.
Very good.
Every
the checks always had zeros on them anyway, so that wasn't really much use. They're just haunting us. Here's your paid 0.
Every time I mispronounce a character, Blizzard actually just charge my subscription again.
That explains why you've been eating beans out of the can.
That's it.
Oh dear.
It's hard because to protect people from those who want the rewards the game dangles, but don't understand what those rewards are supposed to be from the skill and commitment level. Well, if you want to protect people from those other people, then you need a form of certification. You need to get your, you need to get your degree.
Oh my God.
Now,
I'm a PhD in interrupting too late.
but the problem then is that is so like we put a wall up. Now, the thing is, if you put up a wall, but you frame it as a journey, and there's a bunch of things, that you can do in game, and Blizzard tries to actually make them be fun. Maybe they put in a few endless or challenge modes so that people could get a cool transmog, and maybe if you can get an initial starter set of gear from doing it, such that a player feels accomplished at the end, then it would feel like, oh, my reward is I get to sort of access this big new journey, and only after I've proved that I have mastered all the bits of Blizzard's toolkit. But putting in a hard block feels just too ham-fisted. It feels too ham-fisted to me, but how can you protect the experience of your audience otherwise? That's why it's goddamn hard.
I guess the answer then is basically, which player base do you want to hurt more as it currently stands? And the current solution is probably hurting the higher end players slightly more, but they're stickier anyway, generally. So that's probably like their reasoning for having the way it is. And I think they would very much love to.
This is like a mid-level suffering factory.
Yeah, basically it is either they're like game theorying suffering, as opposed to, because to solve this problem would be a fucking nightmare. Like the idea you have there of, building a basically like an in-game tutorial system that's heavily incentivizes gameplay wise,
but it can't be called a tutorial.
It can't be called. It has to be.
It couldn't be called the Hall of the Novice. I think that's a shit name as well. Like it needs to feel aspirational.
It needs to be the actual game you're playing, basically. Like a normal game has a difficulty curve and learning, introduce mechanics bit by bit.
Yeah,
it needs to do that.
Like the way in some games you'll start off as a rookie, but then maybe after the first third of the game you prove yourself and you get knighted or something. Like
the whole Monster Hunter system of ranks.
This
perfect for that.
It would need to feel like that. It can't be you're in the dunce chair until you go through dunce school. It needs to feel positive. It needs to feel aspirational. Like the psychology needs to be, it needs to be reinforcing, not punishing. Yeah. And I think, Blizzard fuck up for reinforcement all the time, and like the key depletion is a brilliant example of that.
Yeah, so it's like if we were to build the tutorial, I think the answer then has to be you build content that holds people's hands while they learn basic things, and then you struggle because you can't do that, because you can't teach people to interrupt. Do you know why you can't teach people to interrupt, Michael?
Because they haven't looked at your key binding guide.
Because discipline and holy priests don't fucking have interrupts. Everyone else does. Not them.
That's okay.
Not them.
You
need to give them interrupts before you can teach them.
You either give them interrupts or you accept that your game is designed such that people have to work together, and you deal with the edge cases. And if you're going to complain about the edge cases, well, sorry, fuck you. You made those edge cases.
That's fair. So like you would basically need to build.
And I'm not give everybody all the utility all the time, because then in order to challenge a group of flipping supermen, you're gonna have
the war within dungeons.
Oh no!
You're gonna have the war within actually at a high key level happen, where it is, because I know Jack talks about all the time. Or my Jack talking consistently about the like defensive bloat and how it's like, how do you heal anyone? You either heal them after they use a defensive, or they don't use a defensive and they explode, which means by default Blizzard are hitting players in hard content. Blizzard are hitting players for 140% of the health bar to do any damage. And then you go, well, I didn't press my defensive. Oh, you can't live.
I mean, I think
and
about that as a paladin.
And someone goes, healer problem? Healer diff? I didn't get a fucking external because they didn't know I wasn't going to press bark skin, whatever else.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Funny, but like, yeah, it's like, I'm trying to think about what sort of elements you would need to actually teach people specifically. And it's kind of awkward
Well,
because
imagine League of Legends if characters had each had 15 buttons. And most of those buttons did something. What you would have is, and obviously it's PvP, so it's just going to be more of a clusterfuck. One of the reasons why WoW PvP's a big struggle getting people in is because it's fucking ridiculous.
oh, it's ludicrous.
It's absolutely goofy.
And it's not. It's like it's insane, but it's even insane because like I would say in terms of World of Warcraft players, I am in a very top percentile of knowing everything.
Yeah.
Because it's part of what I do for my job is I understand basically every spec to a certain degree.
And if you can get, say, like an 80 parse DPS in a heroic raid, yeah, that's you 80th percentile of heroic parses. You're probably beyond 95th of WoW players.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in general. So that's another thing. Maybe like I'm learning Ret. I get a 40 parse on a heroic. This is the first time raiding was Ret. On a heroic raid, and there's a bit where you could be like, "Oh, boo-hoo, I'm terrible at the game." But then you also realize, well, oh wait, hang on a second. There's a reason why if I go into content that's not a heroic raid with my guild, I'll always be in the top.
Yeah.
Even though there's people who have grinded better gear. It's because you're 40 percentile heroic raid. That means you're better than almost fucking massive swath of players.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of Dunning-Kruger in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's the same thing because I was actually watching two people I watch a lot, Eugene Teo and Mike Israel on
yes.
fitness and strength stuff.
I was just thinking like, really,
so like,
Renaissance keys.
yes. So they they had a conversation. This is a long time ago, but I just saw the video recently talking about like how kind of for bodybuilders like it's kind of hard to remember when you're in the gym that you're substantially bigger and stronger than most people alive. You're in the top like single digit percentile of humans.
Yeah.
But then you look small compared to someone who's just somehow bigger than you or whatever else.
Well, if
it's like you're still like objectively you're fucking insanely huge. It's just subjectively that moment you're not, and I think that happens a lot of people. And it's just like how could you possibly feel incompetent getting 70 parses in a heroic raid? And that's me. I parse 70 go, how the fuck am I this bad at this game? I've been playing this for years. What's going on? You're like, no.
Yeah.
No.
And when the thing is, when you look at people on YouTube, we've all, me and Matt have both played WoW for like half of our adult lives, maybe more. Or at least technically speaking.
Yeah. Had an account for at least like.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. That's really silly. Now, I mean, there was somebody in our comments who's eye level 600, can't do Zekvir, even said like, I can't do Zekvir even in a group, which is then assuming Blizzard have got the balance right, that shouldn't matter. I'd actually say Zekvir is easier because is easier solo because that way you control all the variables, so you can just do them right, and they're really clear on the first difficulty level. And like, yeah, to me, I went and killed Zekvir first time. It was absolute piss. But number one, there's our guide. I knew what the mechanics were. Number two, I've played WoW for a long time, so it's easy. So then there's a bit of a problem where WoW streamers, I mean, back in the day, they were all absolutely muscled up PvPers. Now there's a lot of raid and M+. And that means you only see the best. You look at YouTube, and a lot of the time you'll only see the best. So it kind of creates this expectation of normal that's, I guess, yeah, it makes a lot of sense thinking about like the fitness side of things, where people, they may feel that, the only thing I need a 4-day a week, this and that. Whereas I'm pretty sure to beat most of the population,
you need to go for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah, if you do like 30-minute body weight or lightweight sessions a week and then walk, you'll be beating most humans.
Yep.
But then people, you see what gets talked about, and nobody talks about like that because it's not flipping sexy. Nobody's like, hey, look at me. I have an above average body. It takes barely any time. And I do a whole bunch of other things. They're not going to have a fitness channel.
Yeah, no, you're going to be watching bodybuilders and lifelong trainers, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's same with WoW.
Yeah.
Where we're ridiculous nerd people.
kind of funny because, like, to get back to the talk of the tutorial, like, how do you solve that problem? And the answer is really re-architect your entire game from the ground up. Easy solve.
So what you need
Easy solve.
is aspiration. You need narrative. I mean, back in maybe some, just fuck it, just do it like this. Have a alliance and horde. Theme it to alliance and horde because those factions are
Twice the work, Michael. God.
Oh my God! Imagine a developer having to do work in their paid product. Insane. So I know it's very toxic and entitled of me. So you do that. You theme it to alliance and horde because then it fits a self-selected player fantasy. So you couldn't just do it for the Earthen because no one wants to be. You're the Justicar of the Earthen of Khazalgar. People you fucking met yesterday. Bullshit. No, it's got to be Evergreen Horde Alliance, especially because that's what a player literally. The best way to do it would for it to be your player's race, but that's definitely too much work. But the point is, you need a self-select. It needs to be aspirational. Therefore, it needs to be something you'll inherently give a shit about. So if you chose a horde character, then you probably care about horde, so make it horde. Then you make it a journey. Make it a journey full of challenges, full of rewards. By the end, I'm not saying you get knighted. You're Sir, fucking Sir Slim Shady, the rogue. There you go. No. But something that you sort of get inducted into the big dick pumpers of the alliance.
The old BDP. Yep.
Yep. And a great example of this is probably the old PvP titles, where you could be commander or high over or whatever. Well, you harness some of that so that by the time somebody is doing a Mythic Plus dungeon, they've got their badge, but they don't feel like that's a punishment. They feel like that is part of their progression. They've got good rewards from it, and they've maybe got rewards that are well designed to set them up. So maybe you give them a trinket that has a little bit of a survivability usage or something like that to kind of ease them in. But yeah, you frame it as a player journey, not as a sort of big requirement. You make it evergreen, so you only need to do it once.
Class halls, baby.
Yeah, you only need to do it once.
Class hall tournament arc.
But
easy, sorted.
You can go back to it if you want to refresh your skills. Maybe you have some sort of, it's not a requirement, but maybe there's a class-based reward as well. So if you're starting a new class, you can go and do it and get a cool reward that makes sense for your class. So it's all about harnessing this in terms of player psychology. I mean, if this is a tutorial, it'll never work. The problem isn't that WoW doesn't have a tutorial, because in many cases you don't need a tutorial. Loads of amazing games don't have a tutorial because they're very smart about what end they throw you in.
Yeah, tutorials are generally bad ideas and they suck. No one likes a tutorial, unless it's a very specific kind of game, but most people would rather learn by doing in the vast majority. Like, I get there's certain archetypes of players who are very kind of, I'd say anxiety prone, and they'd rather be prepared for something before they meet it, where I think tutorials kind of work. But you can always frame something as not a tutorial and then make a tutorial and just have people nonetheless. Yeah. And even then, I think, like, even if you were to do
the first boss of Dark Souls is a tutorial.
Yeah.
I mean, in fucking Sekiro, most of the initial bunch of bosses are tutorials. Yeah. They're basically checking, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you use this? You don't know it's a tutorial because it's a challenge.
Yeah, the Capra Demon was teaching you to play with the terrain or get fucking eaten by dogs. Starts in my head because I saw someone post a picture today on Twitter, been like, it was somewhere in France, and it was literally the Capra Demon room. Like, it was literally that. It was and you could tell, like, the Souls team, when they were looking for stuff in, like, around French castles, they found that and used it as a boss room. And this person didn't know what it was. They're like, there's like a 98% chance there's a magic shop at the end of this alleyway. And everyone's like, no, there fucking isn't. There's a Capra Demon. But yeah, I think there's a huge amount of, like...
Yeah, Space Marine 2 didn't send me to boot camp because my character's a Space Marine. Yeah. They just introduce me to the mechanics via the story of the first mission. So they flow out naturally and I learn without feeling like I'm learning because I'm immediately rooted in the fantasy I signed up for.
The struggle there is that you do need, like, World of Warcraft's kind of... it's such a UI game.
That's the problem.
that you have to tutorialize at least to some capacity, because you can't show someone a cast being thrown at them and expect they know to hit, let's use Paladin for example, hit rebuke. Or you can't have someone, especially with talents involved, you can't, without in some capacity having a tutorial setup, or at least a sort of railroading setup or hand-holding setup, you can't expect, say, a Paladin to freedom or to cleanse toxins or sack or bop or something. So that's the kind of stuff you need to teach, and that's a little bit more difficult.
Do you know who almost came close to doing that?
Who?
Bran.
Almost.
Nerubians are in the webs!
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's one thing for sure. We know that Nerubians are in the webs. Or even times where Bran will say, look out. Well, maybe if Bran said look out and then suddenly your character's dead, you're gonna...
No, you're not, because you're too busy looking at all the shit that's happening on your screen to hear Bran say look out, because World of Warcraft players don't pay attention to anything.
And they have sound turned off.
Also, most of the sound turned off, music turned off, and listen to the Race the World First playlist that Echo put up, which is usually quite good.
So I think a problem. Blizzard... parts of Blizzard have not taken proper ownership over the game that they're building and the experience they're trying to put people through.
Yeah.
Blizzard needs to make a firm decision. They need to make a firm decision about what the in-game UI is supposed to do in Mythic Plus. Because if you don't have Plater, or you don't have Little Wigs or whatever,
if you don't have Plater, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Now that is unacceptable.
Yeah.
In the game, because I mean, as a designer, your job is for the enemy to fail convincingly. Now, if your game UI, if because of the nature of your game UI has a role to play in that, and it doesn't, then you're failing. Because games, it's not a professional sport. It's not the Olympics. You are actually supposed to win. There's supposed to be a challenge, but you're supposed to win, and it's supposed to be pretty clear how you should win. And WoW fails with that.
Yeah, I think
unless you have weakors, or you have a raid leader who is, a raid leader who telepathically knows, hey, intermission's over, tab back to the game.
Yeah, I've never had to say that.
Yeah, or get your other hand back in the keyboard, Jim, or whatever it may be.
Other hand? So you played two-handed, nice. Maybe three hands, that's insane. Please play with your one hand on your keyboard, one hand on your mouse, please. Thank you. There was something I was going to go to. Yes, I feel like, and this is obviously, like, we're getting kind of into, well, obviously the fucking crux of this is armchair dev territory, but I think there's a little bit of armchair game studio running here, but I feel like it's probably worth it if they got like a member of staff. And obviously, if one member of staff could do this, I don't know, because I don't know how they do things in their I don't know how they literally change the stuff. But one of the great examples is the personal resource display, which is
forgotten.
No, it's not, because every now and again they'll add something to it, and I'm just sat there going,
yeah, well, even when you have dementia, you have good days.
Yeah, it feels that way. And I'm just like maybe it's just an element of if I were to start that, I would get lost in the fucking in the mist of I'm doing this for every spec now. But like, why the personal resource display has some buffs but not others fucking blows my mind. I don't know why. Like, obviously I know they're busy people and they've loads of shit to do, but I don't understand why they don't like go, okay, and here's like 3 people. Let's say, to be fair, instead of saying 1 or 2, you 3 people have one job. Your job is to make sure the personal fucking resource display shows the shit you need to make decisions to at least an acceptable degree. And the degree of that can change depending on what buffs you want to track and stuff like that. But right now, reasonably, it's actually not that bad. And it's to the point where I considered, and I did this for DK, I need to do it for a couple other specs as well, but I went through with Plater and I manually whitelisted buffs that were useful to see on the nameplate. I'm like, just do that, like, have a thing in game that goes, this is the thing you need to know, here's the thing you need to know, you have it now.
If Luxthos can do it, I feel like Blizzard probably can.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. Now, obviously, weak ores is probably easier to work with than the personal readers. But yeah,
there's different ways to do this.
Yeah.
So you see whenever an enemy, and I know that, look, WoW's a UI game, you got to just goddamn embrace it. That's it. Simple as.
yeah.
So if there's a
For the
priority,
most part,
if there's a priority interrupt, that's a proper, this just needs to be interrupted. You know what? Just make something big.
Like Plater,
make it look bigger.
Plater profiles always have important interrupts, at least as best as developers can do. From beta testing stuff is it's an orange.
Yeah.
So if you're a complete just I don't learn shit with this game, I just autopilot and play. You just learn to interrupt the scarier looking ones.
Let's say there's dispels. Let's say a player has got to be dispelled. They probably need a more common design language for that. And then there are different types of dispels. So there's a dispel that you need to get rid of. There's a dispel that will blow up in a bad way. Yeah, there's a dispel you need to drop on top of something.
That's
well, guess
part.
what?
Yeah.
You can do that with effects. Take the dispel that you need to drop on top of the Silken Court boss. Well, you know what? Maybe you have a swirly something in the player, whatever.
A little swirly that goes down.
But it goes,
yeah.
and it sort of draws you, visually draws you into where you need to go. Because people, you may be like, well, that's holding the player's hand.
Yeah.
The thing is, but yeah, it is. But also, knowing to do that is just a binary knowledge thing.
Same way.
That's the problem. It's a binary knowledge thing. So there's really no skill expression in knowing where you need to run whenever you get that, because you either know it or you don't. The skill expression is not dropping it on top of your friends.
It's the same thing with the rolling acid, right? The rolling acid is insanely handholdy because it is physically showing you're going to be hit. Here's the line. Here's where it goes.
Yeah.
It's not handholdy, but it's perfect.
It's not. Perfect. I disagree that that's handholdy.
Well, I'm just saying by that thing.
Okay, fair.
What
it is a clearly expressed mechanic.
Yeah.
So you know how to play it, and it's intuitive. Mm-hmm. And I think that example of if you have a dispel that you need to drop on top of a boss, well, maybe you have a standard effect. Even if it was an arrow telling you where to run, that only solves a player lack of information that they could only otherwise find in the dungeon journal. So it's just a convenient way of giving people info. It makes the game's design more clear, which means a player understands what they've got to do. And then if the problem is, dispel it on time, well, then that's players. That's players working out how to play the game. If it's, you gotta walk over here, but don't run on top of your friend and kill them. Great. Those all are fine in a handholdy way, because it turns out telling the player what their objective is not handholding. The challenge is achieving that objective. And right now, people don't feel like they can access the challenge in a way that'll manifest flow because it's too hard to focus because the game is not clear in its communications.
Yeah, I think the finest example of this is probably the Stone Vault first boss dispel. Do you remember how that works?
Wait, what? Sorry, say that again.
Stone Vault first boss dispel.
Which one's that?
It's the one in the tank, so you probably don't because you're the DPS. But so the tank gets, I can't remember what it's called, but they get a debuff when they get hit by something, and if that dispel will give them a huge amount of damage reduction or a shield whenever it goes off, whenever it's dispelled, right? So you hold the debuff until the boss is casting its big tank buster. Then you dispel. Then the tank doesn't die to the tank buster. How do you figure that out? You read the tooltip, or you see it, or you get told it after the third time you as a healer didn't do it right and got kicked from a group or depleted because you didn't know it and no one explained it. It's really it's kind of awkward. And how do you explain that naturally in visual? I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know.
Sorry.
Tank gets a debuff.
Yeah.
That debuff looks like a dangerous debuff. Dispel, get rid of it. It's just a normal magic debuff.
Yeah.
But you have to wait until the boss is doing a tank buster to dispel it. If you automatically go, oh, that's a nasty debuff, dispel, because it's on your unit frames as a debuff, you go, oh, naturally you dispel things immediately. So it's don't dispel immediately, wait.
Well, then you need a design language for a timed dispel, because that's the category of that dispel.
Two problems. One is the time is variable because boss spell queuing.
Okay.
Obviously. The other problem is you don't see the debuff on the tank.
You see in your
You see
user
it in
frames.
unit frames.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I'd say then? That's a bad design space. Leave that design space.
Yeah.
Just design different.
Yeah. Even though that's actually kind of good at time to spell, it is intentionally misleading and intentionally trying to catch healers out.
If you want to do that right,
Yeah.
then your tank should say, ally, well, you know, fantasy-wise,
Yeah.
it's the tank saying, my dear healer, I am in peril. Can I hath an external? Okay, well, that's natural teamwork. Yeah. Instead of setting up a confusing gotcha. Which, I mean, a boss, you know, if you're a boss, that's actually a good way to mess up the player. But yeah, like with your mechanics, that makes sense logically. You can see the challenge, you can see the thing the players are supposed to overcome, but your game UI just does an awful job of displaying that. So it's therefore not a mechanic you can do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny. By the definition that I think Blizzard would call something hand-holding, enemies having animations in Dark Souls would be hand-holding.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because all that it is clearly communicating what the fuck's going on. Now, it's just naturally harder in an MMO, especially a fast-paced one like World of Warcraft. And anytime they've tried to slow the pace by having specs with downtime that is substantial, putting more things in the global cooldown, people haven't liked it.
Because people want their smashy button go forward.
Yeah, because the second you play Lost Ark and you have like 4 abilities that each do 8 trillion things and stun lock all the enemies, you feel powerful and that feels good. And they know that feels good in World of Warcraft.
And Lost Ark even had its own issue of difficulty, where people wanted it was the same actually issue we're talking about here, with the gear curve being, well, here's a linear gear progression, but difficulty also goes up. So if you want the best gear, you have to do the hardest difficulty, and people were struggling against design elements being introduced to different difficulties before, because they're like, well, I just hold W and do my damage. And that also had a struggle of like not being very good for figuring out how much damage you're doing, because you just kind of have to intuit it. And that resulted in like kind of the same problem of having a lot of the like lower skilled player base causing issues for larger skilled player base, because they're like, well, why can't I progress? And like, you're not good enough. Like, but the game didn't tell me that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great example, not a great example, but a principle. The clip of me talking about the design principle of less but better, it was like pretty disliked, because a lot of people are saying, oh, Michael, that's just an excuse for lazy fucking game developers to give me less shit. But the thing is, whenever you say, look at a dance routine, which I'll admit it's something I barely ever do, but
I wish I could appreciate a good choreography.
If you see some dance where it's just everyone's doing different shit, it's barely choreographed and it's just a flippin' disaster, versus some absolutely pro job where it's beautifully in sync and choreographed. There's always going to be, even if the moves are hard, there will be a degree of intentionality and simplicity that is, the sort of the whole sequence expresses. Because you need visual clarity for the audience to be able to perceive something. A really good example is the fucking 2 Steve Jobs documentaries. One of them was just, here are scenes from his life from start to end, and it's shit. And the other one is, we're going to the one that has Aaron Sorkin writing, it is just, we're going to center this on 3 key events, and we're going to have focus, and therefore it'll be good. And of course it's way better, because it turns out when you're going to watch a movie, you're there to appreciate writing and performances, not just to see scenes that portray a sequence that you already know. So
I don't know about that.
going into a game like World of Warcraft, if you think of some of the most satisfying boss fights out there, they are so clearly visual. Often ones where, Black Hand, the floor breaks. The floor breaks in segments.
Good times.
Or, anything like that is clearly communicated by the environment. Or it requires using your eyes, but it also is relatively simple.
Fuck, imagine Kaivesa if there wasn't a hexagon on the floor. Imagine if Kaivesa was just a simple circle floor. You'd be fucking done for. Oh, it'd be so hard.
So less but better. Really good example that World of Warcraft, I think, struggles with is sometimes WoW tries to get its difficulty from cognitive load, and Ovanax is a great example of that with the swirlies. Now, the swirlies to me, the reason why Blizzard do the swirlies is to increase cognitive load. So that in addition to maybe firing externals in your mates, whatever the core thing that your role's got to do, positioning, the overall strategy of the fight, maybe you're thinking, okay, where's the next set of eggs? If I get the thing, where am I going to go? Well, if you think about that too much in advance, there's no game. So Blizzard throws in the swirlies. But the swirlies are just noise.
Just pure
Blizzard increases the difficulty by reducing the signal-to-noise ratio, meaning it's less clear and failure is easier because of cognitive overload. But that is not a form of failure that I think any player finds satisfying. So when you see like a really well-designed FF14 fight, and I think FF14 is a good example because so much of it ends up being a positional dance.
Yeah, they're super, super clean with where cognitive load comes from, and cognitive load is always super, super, super intentional in those fights, and you can tell because I think I said this before a while ago. They time mechanics to line up with your cooldown windows, so your 2-minute burst comes up, and then you're like doing that while the hardest mechanic of the fight happens. And you're like, you motherfucker! If I was doing 1, 2, 3, I would be able to do this. But I'm also trying to play piano, so I'm getting killed.
At worst with Blizzard, it feels like they're not confident in their design, so they just decide to get Blizzard's standard seasoning mix, and they just fucking put lashings over it, and it's in the form of swirlies.
Yeah, it's kind of like the swirlies. The overnight swirlies are maybe the perfect example. That fight we would have cleared that so much faster.
On a purple floor. Dark purple swirly on a purple floor with a massive boss, with what WoW's mechanics look like. I mean,
with the eggs having collision, and also A-bomb limb being above the swirlies. Fuck, I hate A-bomb limb so much, man. Oh, Jesus.
And that's a great example. You should like A-bomb limb because it's fucking cool. And normally, when I see A-bomb limb going off, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, that looks awesome. In the same way, whenever there's a bunch of ads and the Warriors blade storming, it's like, yeah!
Yeah.
But the signal-to-noise ratio, visually, means that cool thing is no longer cool. And I think a version of World of Warcraft where you basically turn off your ability to see the cool thing that your friend has done because you need to see the stupid swirly in the floor. Great. You just strip the fantasy out of it.
Yeah, I think it's cognitive load's an interesting one because I think it's actually where most of World of Warcraft challenge from. It's binary knowledge, then cognitive load. That's the problem. It's keeping on top of everything at once. And that's what's actually killing us in Ansarek Phase 1. Is because I'm trying to think about everything that's happening next and keep the order of things in my head, and then I will not have a vampiric blood up in front of Feast and be like, fuck.
I love the Gordon Ramsay, the raid is raw, more swirlies.
Yeah, and swirlies feel like a really bad example, specific, not just because of the randomness, not just because of the floor, but because of where they are. It actually does feel like just pure noise. There's an example, there's a video of Jake Paul training to box. And the training aside, which is fucking nonsensical, or seems that way rather, they also have simulated fight noise and simulated fight variables going on, which means when he's trying to do his circuit training, there's some crowd noise playing really loudly randomly. People are blaring air horns at him, and at one point someone throws a bucket of water on him. And you're like, that's just bullshit. You just added bullshit. You've made that harder, but for not meaningful way. Yeah. You've made it just fucking annoying.
I think a problem Blizzard runs into, and it's a very fair problem. It's one that I think every developer naturally falls into because, you obviously have got the blinkers on because you're working within your project. But sometimes what's lost is the universal truths. You're working with humans and their perception. That's the same no matter everywhere else. So less is more works whenever I change our video thumbnails in the news channel, apply less is more to a few more things, and suddenly our views are they'll probably push 5 million, up from struggling to hit 2. Because I apply less than more. And the reason why less than more works is people more clearly understand the value one of those videos could have to them, because I've told them quite clearly. Now, let's, it's good to apply these in different contexts. Whenever you see a YouTube video thumbnail that's just 8 million things, They're all high contrast. There's intersecting lines. They're messing up their tangent line rules. It just is fucking soup, and you don't know what it is. Whenever you look at a movie poster that has 85 actors' faces on it, and there's text everywhere, that's an awful movie poster because it's not clearly communicating its value. It's not clearly communicating its purpose. Well, your extra swirlies in WoW, or all of your UI bloat in WoW, it's the same fucking thing. It's communication and human perception. People, it just doesn't. I mean, that's basically the thing. So much of the stuff in WoW does not communicate its purpose to people clearly.
Yeah, I will highlight, I think specifically, Overnax is almost an outlier in the raid. I will say, generally speaking, I think the rest of the raid is very, very, very intentional with it. It's just, I think those swirlies were maybe, we need a bit more difficulty in this fight, and we don't really know how to get it within the context of the design. Because, like, Ansurek doesn't just do random shit at you.
There's better ways to do that. I mean, if you want to do that with swirlies and even still have a goddamn swirly, maybe when you kill the parasite or you kill the whatever, it is going to explode into a little bomb. Yeah. Or maybe whenever you kill the spit boy blows up and then swirlies rain around everywhere. But that's a fine use of swirlies because it's so clearly...
If the thing is happening at a time, so you know what to do.
Yeah.
Or if they... Because I really like, as an example, Kaivesa, right? Kaivesa's Starless Night is the hexagons explode, or even Silken Court's Takasha's Intermission, where he does the webs in the cones. I think those are good examples of, like, without those, you'd just be dodging, you'd do whatever. It is that difficulty, but they happen in patterns and they happen in ways that are predictable. You move and move and move. If you don't do it right, if you forget or you're busy, it hits you. But in a way that's less annoying. So I think if they ended up like coming out in lines, and say it was like, here's a line of swirlies, and they happen pretty fast. But as long as there was a pattern to it or something, then you'd be able to do it. Yeah.
Brilliant comment from one of our long timers. It brings up a really good point from Night Stalker. Last 20 minutes are extremely frustrating to listen to. You don't seem to want people to learn through trial and error. That's the thing.
Yes.
I do want people to learn through trial and error. I want that to be calibrated. And I think the problem is currently WoW asks people to learn via trial and error at the expense of somebody else's time. So in the context of a raid, learning by trial, I mean, obviously that's great. I actually, as a group, we'll know the overall fight, but we'll just be like, here's the mechanics, fuck it, let's just go. And that's way more fun. Totally with you. And the best boss fights are the ones where you can almost just go in and completely learn via trial and error because you feel like the mechanics are fairly clearly, communicated to you. So trial and error, absolutely good. I think it is just setting things up so that players, without having to rely on add-ons and stuff like that, that they feel that learning via trial and error is an accessible thing for them. And this is just me being pragmatic, because in an ideal world, it's very clear what all of these things are. There is 100% informational transparency. There is therefore no excuse for anyone to fail any of these mechanics, and therefore everybody's rude by being bad at WoW. But the thing is, it's like that difference between ideology, sort of ideologies and philosophies, but then the pragmatic thing, where you could basically say, well, you know what? I just don't believe that the government should have a tax on, on sugary drinks. But then somebody else could say, well, that's a totally fine, small government, get out of my fucking yard. I get that. I'm actually really sympathetic to that. But then the pragmatic side of that could be, well, if we do this, it's going to have this impact. You're going to raise, this tax, which will be useful. And you'll save this much in the health service. And, whatever you maybe end up sort of via some psychological nudges, moving people towards moving them towards patterns of behavior that have less negative externalities. And negative externalities behavior, like this is all bread and butter WoW problems. If I mean, a fucking good example of public policy. If you're full raw libertarian, then the idea of the government having a tax on plastic bags at a shop is ridiculous.
Don't tread on me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have your don't tread on me boxers on, firing your AR. And like, there's totally a large bit of me that's like, well, yeah, fucking personal responsibility.
I'm going to be really honest.
But the thing is, pragmatically, the flipping plastic bag tax thing fucking worked. And it's actually not an unpopular policy, at least in the UK.
Yeah, it worked really well. Now I have paper bags at Marks and Spencer's and they're fucking dog shit. And I'm buying them for like 30p and my life's miserable.
And so the thing is, it's really easy to use 100% informational transparency. And how look, we're all top end players probably here.
We're close enough to it anyway.
Yeah, because like the
well,
top end.
Top end, because top end actually means like
we're all
raiders.
upper quartile.
Yeah,
we're all upper quartile players who know how to get every single bit of information. There is nothing we don't know, and nothing we don't know how to know.
Yeah,
and the problem is that makes it harder for us to work out what a good World of Warcraft looks like, because the challenge is, I mean, you remember living early delves?
I do indeed.
The people who are item level 610 or 600 and they can't kill Zekfir, and we think about that like, well, whatever, I'll be doing this many 100,000 DPS. How could I not kill him? He'll be dead in 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it's going to be. And the thing is, well, yeah, with everything I know, I'm going to do that much DPS at item level 600. But maybe somebody else is playing a Rat Paladin who thinks that because flipping, oh my god, the name of your main spender, I'm so bad with ability names.
Templar's Verdict?
Yeah.
Final Verdict?
Yeah. They think the Final Verdict, well, that's my big DPS button. I better hit that all the time. Therefore, they're always overcapping all of their holy power generation. They may never clock on that they're making a mistake. And that's a great example of how, we might both be at level 600, but one of us, Zekfir, has pissed the other one. It's impossible. And so we are held back by what we know, and the informational gap between us and the fucking target people that we're trying to sort of lift up. And I guess you look at why a lot of technocratic governments, and that's probably, for fucking our government now, who I'd say are leaning more in the technocrat direction, the problem they're going to have is like, yeah, okay, they're going to be policy wonks. They're going to be focusing policy, focusing on what's the best way we can, we can do this. But then you're going to have a lot of implicit assumptions baked in because you have all the fucking information. But the people whose patterns of behavior need to change for you to achieve your goals, they don't know all the things that you know. That's one of the problems with World of Warcraft. So the fucking game designers of World of Warcraft, goddamn, they know everything about the game. And they probably play with weak ores. And they,
of course they fucking do.
And they know that their content has got to be possible for people who don't have weak ores and Plater. And it technically is. But they probably don't...
Very technically.
Yeah,
very technically.
But they probably don't appreciate the experience of playing the game without weak ores and without Plater and without understanding what either one of them is. Because you can't delete that. You can't delete that you know that those things are there. And fuck, whenever me or you talk about like an add-on, well, that's just like, yeah, we go to CurseForge, download the add-on, /reload your UI, get a fucking import string, done. To somebody else, they're like, an add-on? I need another application? And even though we know that's like 50 seconds.
If even.
To them, it's an unknown. Doesn't matter how many seconds it is. It's an unknown. So they're not going to do it. Add-on shouldn't be the solution to the problem anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think there's one thing I wanted to say about trial and error, which is I actually think that it comes down to, like you say, about information.
Knox, like I spilt Huel in my shirt before recording.
Oh my god. Vile. But I think trial and error is different based on, is it trial and error, you don't know, you hit it, you die, you learn it? Or is it you know what it is, but you optimize how to do it? And that's the thing that's happening us in Raid. We will see the fight and we'll die and go, oh, we did okay. We'll have a very short period of trial and error of learning the fight. We'll tend to read the dungeon journal and talk about stuff, whatever else, know the basics. But then the trial and error that comes in for us specifically, and this is true in our like our Mythic Plus runs as well. It's very execution based and also optimization based. So Ansarek, we know phase 1.
Yeah.
We know exactly what to do in phase 1. The problem is sometimes people aren't in the right place. Sometimes people don't press the right buttons.
Yeah, the problem is like our
happens.
2 tanks keep on wiping the raid.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
sometimes I don't press VB before I get feasted and then I die and I go, fuck's sake. Or sometimes I don't taunt and Matt just eats both of them. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, we do have 2 tanks, both called Matt. Very funny. Or sometimes I get auto attacked with liquefy and he's still alive and I don't understand how. I'm like, oh fuck. But I think even things like, you know, do I AMS the first route or the second route before the intermission? It's the small things like that. It's like, where exactly do we go with orbs on Kaivesa? We know roughly where, but how does every individual time getting there? How do people move? How far do they move with the rifts? How far do they move with the charges? People know how to do the fight. It's the actual doing that's the challenge.
That's where the trial and error is going to come
That's
in.
where trial and error, I think, is good. That's where I think it's great for like all that progression. In M+, for us, it's the same, where we know how to do all the fights, but sometimes it's how much longer can we survive with this? How much more can we pull in this individual? Can we take this extra pack with the cooldowns? Or can we do it? Sometimes we fail, sometimes we do it, but it works because we have more stun stuff like that. And I think that's where trial and error has a place, and it definitely does. I think the problem largely is where people expect not to have trial and error. People expect to walk in and do it because of a variety of reasons, including it's entitlement. It's rude to be bad at WoW, all that stuff. I think there's all that kind of puts it away.
And the thing is, it is rude to be bad at WoW.
Yeah, it literally is.
Blizzard have made it that way.
Yeah.
And
not even, there's nothing Blizzard can do to not make it that way. They can mitigate it. But by the design of the game, if you die, like theoretically, you're on the last boss of Key, you've got all the time in the world, you die early on. That's still rude because you've still wasted more time.
You have, yeah.
If you're not optimizing your DPS, that's technically rude. It's just the gradation of rudeness gets to the point where Blizzard don't mitigate that all the time as best they can. They do kind of go, yeah, well, if you're a massive shithead on Ansarek and pop early, you've just wiped the fucking group.
And
and that's sometimes fine. Sometimes
my big thought, if you want to solve this problem, you need less mechanics, but better mechanics that are more clear. And sometimes, if you have less noise, you can have more signal. And that could be more interesting, more fun. The timer.
Yeah.
So, I think the timer is foundationally lazy design. I know of many in the industry who would agree. It's quite looked down upon as like the lazy solution, in the same way that, you know, I mean, it's always fun if you know, if one of your parents is in the trades, and they, you know, go into a house or they see something like, my God, that's some mighty bad silicone work, or Jesus, who grouted that? That's kind of how the timer's often seen. It's fucking lazy.
Yeah.
So your thing there is, right, the timer makes every single thing here worse. By far.
Yeah.
Trial and error is the bread and butter and essence of raiding. And it works because raiding is not on a timer. It is a hill to climb, not a hill to climb in time.
And even then, it's on a timer. Because
Yeah, it's on the
real-life timing.
natural timer
Yeah,
of
real-life
you
timing.
playing the game and wanting to achieve your goal. You already have a fucking timer.
Yeah.
So by making it a speed run, Blizzard closes off loads of design space. So they just have foundationally less interesting dungeons. And they exacerbate all the weaknesses of their game while also incentivizing things that unlevel the playing field. Such that you should go to Quasi's channel, get his plater, because it's great and it'll help you.
Kill the timer until Key 12 plus. make every key go up +1 on a clear.
There you go.
Game fixed. Haha. Not fixed. But I immediately think of that and go, there's probably a lot of downsides to that, but I don't immediately see them all. I'm just like, that sounds like it would probably solve.
Look at people
a lot
just
of
fucking
problems.
play delves and delves and delves and delves and delves.
Because the failure rate, the failure is not being able to beat the boss.
Yeah.
So you disband and go, fuck it, we'll try again.
Yeah, now here's the thing though. What you want is a machine for learning. Raids are a fucking learning machine. Now let's say you have somebody failing a mechanic at last boss of a dungeon.
Yeah.
They're fucked. They're fucked. The group could disband. It could all go tits up.
Yeah.
They don't get to try again. And if it was just, can you clear the dungeon on that hard difficulty? And, you'll get more gear quicker if you're able to do the dungeon faster. We don't need a timer. And a bunch of people are struggling to do that final boss. Maybe someone is going to have multiple pulls of that boss with less humongous anxiety, such they'll actually learn the mechanics and enjoy the game. Rather than have everyone be super fucking, mean to them and make it so they're anxious. And anxious people are the fucking worst. And they're bad at everything. And they're bad at learning. So you don't want your game to create an anxiety machine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people
does that.
There's a lot of people disagreeing with removing the timer. I think the challenge being the time, I think, works for pushing keys. I think because I think that
beyond
works
12,
as well,
great.
but I'm not sure about. I think there's more gains to be had from removing it for lower keys than there is to lose. Like, I get, obviously people will hold Lust, people will hold CDs and stuff like that, and I think that's fear of people playing wrong. I think if you've got a group of people who want to do a +10 and they have to hold CDs for everything, I think that's probably okay in the grand scheme of things. Because
it's also not going to fucking happen. It's barely going to happen because
there is a chance of the meta being that, especially if you have bad groups and you have your geared upgrade pipeline, means everyone feels forced to do a +8 or +9 or whatever. So I get that's right. I understand that point. It's like, it's not a perfect solution, but to me it feels like those are relatively minor issues.
Yeah, you see that's the problem of being logical, being super logic and rational first.
Yeah,
it's so easy. The thing is, you follow numbers, you follow data. Cool. There's lots of things you haven't done, and because you haven't done those things, you don't have their numbers and their data. So while you think you are being very objective, you're in fact ignoring the impact of things you haven't done and potential upsides that you don't yet know about. That can be a problem with fear. And it can be a problem with game development in a large company because people are going to be risk adverse.
Rightly so, I think.
Yeah, rightly so, because if they, if you have some big ballsy design that might work, and flip me, I have a story of that's related to World of Warcraft years ago that I absolutely cannot tell. But it's a good innovation in the game that people really liked. That, because it was risky, conferred big fucking risk in its making.
Extra beds and gold shower.
That's it. So look, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's an example of sometimes the moonshot works, sometimes not doing the default works. But if you're doing a system, doing a feature, and it doesn't pan out, but you followed standard internal best practice and all of the data and metrics you had available to you, yeah, cool. You didn't do anything wrong.
Following data is the realm of cards.
That's the thing. It's like, why are people pissed off at AAA gaming and all the fucking exec-driven, risk-adverse thinking that ends up counterintuitively being really risky because now everybody in a attempt to manage risk is making the same fucking type of game.
Well, I actually don't think that as many executives as we think actually follow data-driven trends. I think they're all just morons. But that's a different story. That's a different story. I think it is kind of awkward because obviously we're in armchair dev territory, but we are talking from fairly decent principle kind of standards of solving this stuff. Oh, why is the camera not swapping to me? Hello? Oh, cool. MXFAG must have shut itself.
Love that.
Perfect. Why did it do that? Oh, it didn't? Interesting. No. That's very strange then. Huh. That's interesting.
There is a ghost in the machine, and it's looking at me.
Excellent. Very happy.
Look, that's a kind of fun, fiery discussion that I love,
Yeah.
that I enjoy. I think it's good to sometimes be a little bit more blue sky with it. I think it's actually good to say things that offend people, because that means you're poking at the entrenched opinion, right? You're poking at the thing that everybody's taken for granted. So that's why when I talk about, oh, fuck it, remove the key, there's probably loads of people who'd love that. But do you know who will not love that? All the people who currently enjoy getting a good time and pushing their rating and stuff. There is benefit in generating ideas that are a little bit risky, a little bit offensive, a little bit crazy, a little bit weird. You don't have to just go and implement them, but you can maybe learn a lesson that you can apply elsewhere. And maybe that is that for the competition version of this game, the timer's great and it fits that type of player. But perhaps we cut the timer elsewhere and we just have the content be hard.
Realistically, I also think it comes down to, we wouldn't probably have had this conversation about it changing the timer at above 12, but Blizzard are happy enough to change the rules mid key increase anyway, with the Zaltath's Guile replacing bargains.
Yeah,
I think they're happy enough to do that. So I guess kind of there you go.
And so I guess to end the segment, Blizzard's fixes and things, or things they've done there, that will do absolutely zero. Now,
Absolutely zero.
hang on. It'll do absolutely zero to the real problem.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That basically what they've done there is they've flicked in a few paracetamols. That's it. The core problem of, do people find things intuitive? How are our reward systems pushing people into content, and is that content we've correctly prepared them for? Obviously no changes there do anything towards that. And I'm glad that when I do dungeons, it is basically just like a small raid, because it's with people who I trust. And most importantly, we all have a long-term incentive, right? Because we raid together. So if we start flaming each other out during a dungeon, that's not going to be good for our raid, right? Like, the incentives are correct. Whereas if everybody is, Mythic Plus, to me, it's almost like a PvP extraction shooter at this stage. Can you get the thing that you want without dying? P.S. Everyone else is going to lose.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that. So I think we may have to take a very short moment while
our technology's broken.
While I get our technology to work, because I don't really understand why it's not swapping. Nothing has changed. Apologies. Where are we going next? What are we going to talk about next?
Well, we should probably up the pace.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't even remember what I was going to talk about next.
Well, there's Zekfir. There's the changes to the time warped badges they've made. Mm-hmm. I think Rashanan, we can do that later.
Rashanan.
It's interesting, but it's still very...
It's pretty niche.
Niche details, and we've done enough niche details.
Just a few.
So yeah, we'll hit the big things. Take a look at that Hearthstone space art.
Yeah. I'm just going to make sure. There's a slight chance we lose audio when I do that. No,
we're audible.
Okay, good. Okay. I love computer devices. They make me very happy.
They're a bit of context. So there's software that sort of plugs into our shit, and that swaps the cameras based on who's talking. However, we've had some instability with our switcher, which is a Blackmagic Atom
Mini ISO Pro.
Yep. So
Mini Pro ISO, sorry.
What we may do is move to there's a new device from Rode, who are traditionally microphone people. What's cool though is it does all your multicam stuff, but it's got its switching built in, so that the video will follow the audio, which means that, because you see, back in the day, Matt had to press a button to make the camera look at him whenever he would talk.
That was really, 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 really annoying, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And we did it for far too long. It was too stupid and lazy to actually find a solution.
And so we're definitely considering just getting an out-of-the-box solution. It's a real shame the Black Magic don't have that, but this is more of a broadcast switcher, whereas the Rode one is more designed for like our specific use case, sort of content creation streaming.
Yeah. So Rode sent us one. Thank you. Oh, that's fading. The transfer. Oh, that's fading. That's really awful.
Well, it's progress.
It's literally because I forgot to change it to not fade. By auto, it's that fade as opposed to hard cut, which is really, really grim. Really grim. Yeah. So, what shall we discuss?
What shall we discuss? Yes, right. Okay, man. Our next topic will be...
Spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
I
Oh,
wish
wouldn't
I
that
had a
be
wheel.
fun?
Oh dear.
Big player power increases
Oh yeah,
this week?
I can press these.
Ready to work.
Yeah.
Zog zog.
Yeah. Did you think those are soundboard buttons? Cause no. Yeah, we're low tech around here. We're using not for sale Warcraft 3 Reforged promotional merchandise for some reason.
Our most
Done.
rare and prized limited run collectibles.
Yeah.
Okay, things that are happening this week. This is more of a quick PSA. Certainly, it's one that I should follow because I
You're
have
weak as fuck.
2 bits of champion gear still, which kind of sucks. I think I'm at level 617. I just got 2 slots to fix.
Fucking DPS privilege here. You're actually higher than me now. Because I've been passing
Right.
on like all loot to give it to DPS.
Feels good. I'm either 1 or 2 in DPS now. No, sorry, 2 or 3 in DPS.
Yeah.
Back where is always 1, and me and my warrior Nemesis fight. So
Nemesis.
Nemesis, that's it. Yes.
Nemesis.
Oh, I worked in a screen name. Very good. Right, things to get your power. Spark of Omens, there's another one. You can craft another item up to item level 336. Though you will
336.
Wow, 636. Though you'll need some of those extremely controversial gilded crests to do the latter.
See exactly what we mean about the nature of like the gear upgrade system pushing people to maybe do content. Because we're immediately like, you can craft another item up to 636, so you can.
Which is true.
You can go and do that. That's completely fine. You need a bunch of gilded crests.
Well, hey, if you want to clear an 11 delve, that's going to be great. Unfortunately, enjoy Mythic +8. So there's that. Catalyst, new charge. So you can go and enjoy that. It's also Wrath of the Lich King Time Walking, which will mean you can do Heroic Ulduar.
We need to organize it.
Sorry, not Heroic Ulduar. You can do Time Walking Ulduar. That will get you 1 piece of heroic gear, and defeating 5 bosses or doing 5 Time Walking dungeons will get you another box, which will have a piece of champion gear on it, which is normal mode raid.
The dungeons are also very fast because they're the Wrath dungeons, and they also give you about half a level each.
Yep, really,
Thereabouts.
really good for leveling. And this is pretty cool. The cash that you get at the end of the raid can have very rare things. As an example, one of our guildies got the Ashes of Alar in our TBC Time Walking raid.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So you could get Mimiron's head or whatever. So you can do all that. Give you a nice little burst of progression. Also, mythic BOEs are now a purchasable thing on the auction house.
So if you have infinite money, you can buy slippers for 1 million gold.
Yep.
I will not be doing that.
If
slippers are cloth.
If you're an oil shake and you already have enough golden cars, and you've already defeated all of the other shakes in whatever mobile game specifically designed for that region, because that's actually a thing. I know, shocking. But there was a specific version of a Transformers gacha game that was localized basically to the land of big oil money, and it was stupidly expensive. And they were making a fuckload of money because oil shakes were gacha game fighting each other. Anyhow, you can get that. Some nice 629 myth 3 out of 6. Get your gilded crest again.
That's crazy for 500, 600, 800, 900k. Not bad.
That's only 2 tokes.
Not bad.
2 tokes of the wallet.
2 swipes, like.
So that's going on. But also, Time Warped badges have changed, my friends. However, I will call this the rational balancers, not the fun police, because the way it was previously was completely insane good, especially whenever you could resurrect characters that you'd previously deleted on a 60-second cooldown.
Which I think is over now.
That's over now. Yeah.
Damn.
So
I hope you got all your characters resurrected like I did.
the first time you do a time walking dungeon, and you kill the final boss, you get like a little crystal thing. Bring that back, 500 tokens.
500.
On subsequent characters, that'll be 200 tokens.
Disgusting.
Previously, you were able to just, because the big difference versus the past is this is a tradable currency now. So you could straight up just get 10,000. If you had enough characters, they only had to be above level 30. You could just get 10,000 time walking badges and trivialize stuff. So
Not that 10,000 badges trivializes anything.
there's expensive stuff coming.
Yeah, you're looking at, for all of the new stuff added for Classic and Wrath, you're looking at about 95 to 100k required.
Worth, though, those are designed to be evergreen rewards in the same way that the previous time walking mounts were. Big difference being if you were just starting out and you wanted to get, well, like 5,750, I think, for say like the Wrath time walking mount, which I will sure as fuck be getting this time around, because I just never got it. Because I was never pulling up enough on one single character and I didn't do time walking that much. Well, yeah, you can just funnel them all to one character. So you're still miles ahead of where you were previously, but it's not as insane as it was during the recent TBC week. And it's the same for the boss. So whenever you kill Yogg-Saron on your first character, you'll get 500, and on subsequent ones, it will be 300. That's that. That's the news. Everything else is the same. And as you said, half a level. Half a level.
Yeah, it's slightly under half once you get like above 74, 75-ish, but it's still the same.
Below that. Woo. You, you got, what was it you got from 60 to 62 and a half or 63 and a half in like 2 dungeons?
It was like 61 to 64 in one dungeon. It was
Jeez,
because the way it's, I'm not sure if it scales the same because they changed the scaling between, right?
Yeah.
But last time, the TBC one, it was a Magister's Terrace. I was level 60 something. I was full rested. I had the full warband, like 5 warband and everything else. Maybe I only had 4 of them that time. Anyway, it was because the mob density in MT is so heavy, so big, that it was literally just walking through and killing all these elite mobs super fast. We killed like 1 gigapull, and then I went up like a level and a half.
Your character just exploded.
Yeah, and I was like, 64? Did I not say Oh, I actually went the whole way up.
Like shit, that's shit. I think that's speed we only had previously seen in the Legion pre-expansion event, and that's only because by that time you were at level 110.
Yeah, and
so stuff was just
yeah.
You could get 30 levels in 20 minutes. God, that was a crazy time.
Yeah. Hang on. Any thoughts on them killing the fun of time walking by scaling the enemy to your level, removing the use of old legendaries? I don't have many thoughts on that, mostly because I think that sounds like fun, but it's a kind of awkward thing for how do you optimize playing the game? Oh, you optimize playing the game by having a bunch of legendaries from 1 billion years ago, which in the case of Legion, as an example, if you're probably not using Legion fucking legendaries, it feels like that's not Blizzard's game anymore to let you do that. So I kind of get that. At the same time,
I get it, but I don't like it. I don't think it was hurting anyone. Although maybe they have data to the contrary, I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't really do that with any legendaries. I don't have time walking sets, so it doesn't really affect me, so I don't care. But
I think the thing is low risk and kind of neat.
Yeah, as long as people aren't breaking the economy, or unless there was like they noticed there's a load of people doing time walking boosts or something fucking stupid like that. But I don't know. I think the gains from that is probably better. In that the way they scale it now is probably better for how it feels overall. Because we have historically had issues between expansions and between patches where sometimes scaling would fucking break. And like a good example of that is actually the TBC one, right? Where when we were going in for the first time early, and before we learned that feasts were broken, which we definitely didn't use in our guild run at all to make it faster. Not at all, sir. That was a complete accident. So basically, tanks were getting like basically slapped to death immediately, and I think they kind of went, these are on a different scaling system we use, so I think it's standardization to make that everything they're doing actually work going forward. So I understand it. It looked like Fun Place, but I think that's less Fun Place and more we're making the game better.
It's like every time they maybe unintentionally kill some form of twinking that was hurting nobody.
Yeah.
It's just a bit like, I get it doesn't fit the game, but that's a little bit of a sandbox thing. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a little element of maybe they should have, maybe they should have allowed like engineers to work in time walking as a fix for that or something. But that's probably not worth the time. I don't know. Kind of awkward. But that would be like, I think that's probably like almost like a stretch goal kind of thing for them working on it. They just kind of went, we'll fix this. This is a bug to fix, not a design decision we follow, I think.
Yeah, fair.
So we'll see if anything changes for the thing, but I can't imagine. I think that's just done and dusted now. Especially when they were introducing the old, what do you call it? The old classic stuff. They're probably doing a balance pass for that. I went, can I just plug this into the scaling system? And it'll fuck you right. Yeah, shit. Let's do that. Let's do that, and that'll save them like a load of time and effort in future for more time walking things instead of having to get a balancing that works for that level. So there's a lot of like those kind of internal improvements at these like internal reasons for this stuff that I think was probably part of it. It's just kind of
they'll be thinking about maintainability and all that.
But we lost the time walk twinking,
and that's the problem because texture is fun, especially when it's player discovered, and it's a bit naughty, right? It's like breaking the rules, not in a way where you're going to be properly punished, but it's breaking the rules in a bit of a We've exploited these cool little bits of maths and scaling, and a fun thing's happened that hurts nobody. So, I mean, I get it. I'm definitely a bit sad. I mean, not personally, because I never really did it, but I mean, if that was a thing that like you were proud of, it was just a fun little thing. I think it really sucks that that it kind of got squished in that. It's a little bit like in the Hitchhiker's Guide, the Vogons destroy Earth because they have planning permission to build a bypass.
Yeah, of course. Well, of course, that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
So there's that. Other things. Orlando leaving Blizzard. I talked about that in the news.
Talked about that in the news in the middle of the week.
There's not too much else to talk about.
Yeah,
I mean, fella's out.
Just kind of.
He said voluntary.
He wasn't.
He'll be announcing something soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a gig, which that kind of makes sense. If he, you can be doing really well within the World of Warcraft framework, but you put in 5 years. That's a good stint. You've shipped some cool things that have moved the needle, and there'll be fun new challenges within that, but maybe you want a challenge that's a bit of a step change, or perhaps a challenge that's just a fundamentally different scale.
Yeah,
and a lot of people like moving from a team of 500 people to a team of 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with like a lot of the Blizzard leaving stuff was a lot of it was that it was like, I'm tired of working at Blizzard because of specific Blizzard reasons. And they're not maybe necessarily bad, but they are just kind of different. Yeah. He didn't announce anything. I know a lot of people were immediately like, oh, he's away to Fantastic Pixel Castle in, but there's nothing on that. And I actually think his time didn't overlap with Ghostcrawler at Blizzard. So
not at all.
So there would be no maybe it could be a chain of people.
Yeah, I can think of a few names who he maybe coincided with, but barely, and on different teams because he was classic.
So God only knows.
Through most of that overlap.
Maybe it's something different, but I think that the point is to definitely celebrate what he did there, and hope the team who like follow up from him have some of the same energy.
Yeah, and look, I think the thing with this is it's not like he solo implemented all of this.
No, he did. He's just a hero. He's just a 100x engineer. Like, this is actually the end of World of Warcraft. He's the only one who knows how to make follower dungeons, so they have to can the feature. Fuck, could you imagine? I'm sure there's places like that for sure. But then places like that would then say, you're not leaving, here's 5 extra salary. And he's like, spot on. But yeah, very good. Very sad, but also very good.
Yeah.
Wow, there's depth and nuance to change.
Good luck on what's next. The next thing, I guess, is Mists Classic.
Yeah, confirmed question mark?
Oh.
Is it?
Confirmed question mark. Oh, okay, so what have Blizzard? Well, what's happened?
They put mounts in the game.
That's
it. That's a soft confirm of a deluxe
That's
edition.
a soft confirm.
You get these from the thing?
This looks like a cheeky consumption opportunity.
Yeah, look at that. The way you could get your Tuskar Shore Glider.
Oh.
Your Whalebone Glider. You could get your
Sha Tiger.
Runebound Firelord and stuff. You get your Sha Tiger and your Sha Serpent.
There we go.
Very good.
I will will shat yourself over that.
Yes, I will not be buying that, but I will be trying to play the Mists Classic and then not having time and being really dejected about it for the rest of my life. Like with Wrath.
The magical witch girl microtransaction was the final one.
Yeah, no, it's just it is nice. It depends. It genuinely depends, right? Because 2 months and historically one's retail, one's classic. If the Tigers retail, I'm buying.
Uh-oh.
If the Sherpins retail, I'm not buying. So, Blizzard, you know what to do.
You know, the weird thing is, now that I've been mining a lot more, because for some reason I just listen to a podcast and mine for an hour, just a bit weird for me. It's news, I don't know, it's relaxing.
You've discovered being 20 years younger.
Yeah. And I've also discovered gold earnings. To the point where I look at that, I'm like, I've earned more than enough gold to buy that in WoW token. This is a bit weird.
Damn.
Yeah, so there you go. Gold making can be very enterprising if you want to partake in the circular economy of Blizzard. As for other things, there's not much else to talk about. There's a new Hearthstone expansion. Look, the details of which...
Sick as fuck.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
It doesn't come with any cool content in the sort of...
Fuck.
Here's an adventure. Here's a new mode. No, it's...
Is it just consumption opportunity?
It's just consumption opportunity. But
What are next?
But that means if you're a Hearthstone player, cool mechanics and all that stuff. So that is good. And of course, and Matt, you know what you could even do?
What?
You could buy not a pack, not 40 packs of Draenei. You could buy 40 packs of golden Draenei. Now, Blizzard, if you want a real tip,
Taking me a while to get through all those.
Blizzard needs a third quality level called Lightforged that costs triple the money so that you could spend $399 on 40 Lightforged packs.
No, thank you.
I will save the company.
Yeah. They did a whole big reveal thing. It was all like... Oh, that's the reveal video. That's not the trailer. Damn. But yeah, they had props and people dressed up and talking and stuff. And it was cool.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
The launch. The launch trailer is actually funny. I really liked it.
But I mean, the only Hearthstone that I really play is Battlegrounds. I actually really, really like Battlegrounds. I've stopped playing it because it takes up too much time. And it's too infinitely replayable good. So yeah, I don't play it anymore.
Yeah, I just wish there was some content, because I would love a little adventure mode where you're doing stuff and Velen's there and we've got space, KJ and all that.
Nope.
Your shows up
Nope.
and we've got Draenei and
Nope.
they're cool and you're on the Vindicar
Nope.
and you're blasting dudes.
Nope.
Sick.
Nope. Go play Azure Archive. Blue Archive. Shit, sorry.
30-year anniversary is coming up, so this will be events for that.
There you go. Got some good banners. Most excitedly, though,
What is that? Fuck.
Rage of the Firelands.
Raji of the Fairyland.
Yeah,
Very
October
good.
29th. So all 17 Cataclysm Classic players can go and enjoy that. I'm being a dick. I think there's probably more than 17. I think also, did they say that the HD stuff is shipping in that patch?
HD stuff. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
The toggleable HD text option. Which is all...
That is better than most that I've seen.
AI upscaled. Blizzard are cheating. It's over. Singularity is upon us. We do have good luck telling the difference in these images across the stream quality.
Yeah.
Because the internet is a bastard. We live in hell, but you know.
I mean, that's a good example of fucking AI upscaling tech.
Yeah, it is.
If you use DLSS when you're playing video games, congratulations.
It's kind of funny because they didn't ship it because they thought it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
But I guess from feedback and stuff, they're like, fuck it. It's good enough now.
I'm sure they've polished,
like last tweaks and stuff, yeah.
polished out some of the rough edges.
Yeah,
So-
I might be logging into Cata Classic to try this to see what it looks like. Because I'd love to see it. If it's good, I'd love to see it brought to retail.
Well, do you know what that's going to mean?
Well,
You'll be an MAU.
yay!
Brilliant news.
Yippee! I love being a Mao. Feels great.
Oh dear.
I love being a number in some fucking dickhead spreadsheet somewhere. Well, could be worse. Could be on worse spreadsheets.
Could be a
That's
number
true.
in a nice person spreadsheet.
That's true.
They may also be a fed, so watch out.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
So there we go. We've
Damn, Raggy in both spots. Because Raggy's in what's it called too? He's in BRD. Do you see that?
Yeah.
See Rag isn't
Double
VRD?
rag.
Unreal.
Broken the lore. No respect. Yeah. Pitchforks, though.
Can you say
Good.
that again, Matt? No.
We have reached the delirious part of the stream, which means it's probably time to draw things to a close.
It is after 10 o'clock. And
In terms of content,
hang on. No, let me say this first.
I have a statement to make.
I would like everyone to recognize the great sacrifice it took for me to be on this stream and for me to do any work today whatsoever. Because last night at about 4 a.m, Metaphor ReFantasia released, and I have not fucking played it today, despite the demo being one of the best times I've had playing a video game in many fucking years. So being here for the past 3 hours and all the stream prep and everything else I've done today is me not playing Metaphor.
Well, you know
The
what?
suffering I've gone through for this, I swear to God.
That sounds like weeb shit. I'm going to fly around in circles and click on mining notes.
Oh my God. I swear to God, if you're in any capacity interested in Metaphor, please play the demo. It is fucking sick.
Is it the Atlas?
Yes.
New Atlas game?
Yes.
That hit
the
a
new
million,
Atlas,
the
that hit
fastest
a million
selling?
sales with pre-orders. And launch
That's
sales.
crazy.
It's fucking immense. It is so good. It is genuinely unbelievable. A problem you could have avoided with the Steam Deck. Yeah, I could have been sat here playing the whole time. Like, it's a turn-based game. I could have easily done that. I would never do that. What type of game is it? It is a turn-based RPG. It's medieval fantasy. It's called Metaphor ReFantasio, and it's about metaphors and fantasy. Believe it or not, it is really fucking good.
Hang on. So you can just call your game like Metaphor.
Yeah. You can call your game whatever the fuck you want, and then if you stick the landing, it's going to work. Damn. Yeah, it is. I have played. I assume that's why you broke the camera switcher. That would have been a really high level play, actually. That would have been a high level play. Yeah, it's a turn-based RPG in the style of. It's basically if the SMT games, the Persona sub-series SMT and Etrian Odyssey all had a baby. But it was set in a medieval fantasy world that's a really, really... It's racism. It's just all racism. But it's a great, great, great world. It's a great, great, great world. It's fantastic. Yeah, the whole thing
Clip
is like,
that out of context.
yeah, you're just the victim of racism all day long, and it fucking owns. It's really on the nose in a way that there's kind of very little subtlety to it. But it's fucking fantastic. It's so strong. It's excellent. Fantastic.
I love things that can be taken out of context.
Yeah.
I had a good one about 9/11 earlier.
That's what you
because
did,
what I was referring to was Delves tier 9 through 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like in real life. No. Anime style though, yuck. Sorry, Crooks Toast, you're on the fucking losing side of history, my friend.
No, join me.
It's over
Join
for
me.
you.
Fly around in circles, mining some ore in World of Warcraft. Like a good Westerner.
You're in the past. You're unevolved. It's over for you and your kin. We are here, and there's no going back. I hope that was sufficiently menacing. Maybe I should have sat up and leaned forward.
Holy shit.
And something. It's like, we're here, and there's no going back. Yeah. So good play that. Anyway, content. If you don't want to play Metaphor, you can watch our videos instead, I guess.
Bam.
Fucking losers. Anyway.
We got lore coming out on Sunday, and next week will be very stacked. A few things got knocked back this week, which means we have plenty of scripts. I've got things to record, things to write. It's going to be fun. And that'll be the same on the news channel, though we do have a news channel video on Saturday and Sunday. And by Jove, hopefully Monday through Friday next week as well. That's my self-set target. So that's the crack with that. All right. Have a good night. I'm going to work out how I could watch season 3 of From, which unfortunately is not available in the United Kingdom in any way, shape, or form. How will I do this? Nobody knows.
I guess you may hop on a quick flight.
That'll be it. I'll just have to spin up the private jet, and there's no other way that I could, of course, access on my on any of my devices.
Unless you have a subscription with... No, I'm not going to.
So, join TV show. Scroll to the right. I'm like, stopped at where's season 3? That's currently airing.
Where's the rest?
Very sad. Anyway, have a great night. And, yes, we will be back live next Wednesday because unmovable IRL commitments are what bumped us off Wednesday. So,
Unless I'm playing Metaphor on Wednesday, in which case, fuck all you.
That's okay. I'll somehow work out how to assassinate the game for our collective good. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's late. It's late. I need to sleep, and I don't really have a smooth segue. So
The segue's all jagged. I don't know how it goes around on it.
I say, oh help! I've cut myself in my segue. No.
Yeah, it just bleeds all over the office. It's really weird. Really strange.
Yeah.
But with that final terrible fucking nightmare
Yes,
joke.
with that smooth goodbye. Goodbye. There we go.
Job's done.
I love that thing. I'll be so sad if it breaks.
We have 2 more over there.